Good evening and welcome to the Town Board meeting of March 18th, 2025. If we could all rise for the national anthem.
National anthem?
No,
Unless
Jay, you're
you
singing.
wanna sing.
You're singing the national anthem, Jay. No, okay, and wow. So today I will ask our Vietnam veteran in the audience, Carl Deliberte, to lead us. Deliberto, I'm sorry, Carl. It's been a long day, and your emails.
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And if we could all remain standing for a moment of silence, as we especially, well, I want to add one thing. We want to recognize the passing of Nita Lowey, who served our state very well for decades, and I had the pleasure of meeting her quite a few times over the years, and no matter what side of the aisle you stand on, she had clear vision of doing great for New York, and we also, of course, want to keep in our prayers those that keep our freedoms free. Those who pay the price for it, and we want to also thank, of course, our first responders who make us safe on the home front, as we have quite a few of our first responders here today, and keep them in our prayers. Thank you. So we'll do introductions, starting to my right.
Good evening, everyone. Maura Weissletter, Deputy Town Clerk.
Good evening, everyone. Luciana Howitt, Councilwoman.
Supervisor Ed Lachman.
Sergio Esposito, Deputy Supervisor.
Patrick Murphy, Councilman.
Susan Siegel, Councilwoman.
Rudy Zoda, Acting Town Attorney.
Robin Steinberg, Town Planner.
Thank you, Robin, and thank you, Rudy. So, report from the town supervisor. I did want to just go over a few things. First, I had a great time with a lot of the St. Patrick's celebrations in town. The American Legion had something with a fundraiser. The Elks on St. Patrick's Day, the Senior Center, with a great program. We also had the Elks with a program. So a lot of festivity. And, I thank everyone for, especially during Irish Heritage Month, making sure that they kept that running. It's nice to see the camaraderie, and it's everyone. For the day, my name was Eddie O'Lachterman, and we had a great time, and it was fantastic.
Wasn't it fun with the seniors?
Oh, the seniors were
They
amazing.
loved it.
Yep. I didn't even get pinched that much this year. Usually
was
during
me.
the dance, usually during the dancing, I get pinched. There will be the Sons of the American Legion, because they did the St. Patrick's Day celebration on their normal third Sunday. They will be doing a breakfast this coming Sunday, starting at 9 a.m. to 11. So you'll have an opportunity, if you want to support the veterans in our community. You could see the American Legion and the Sons of the American Legion will do their breakfast. We also have other choices for breakfast. You have Maple Weekend starting this weekend as well. It's 2 weekends, the 22nd, 23rd, the 29th, and the 30th. I know you all caught my show on the television station, but I will. For those that might have missed it, we had in here John Bell with Yorktown Grange, where they'll be having the breakfast, I believe 3 seatings each day at 9, 10, and 11, with locally sourced maple syrup, locally sourced meats, and they'll have, of course, pancakes and eggs. You have the maple syrup being sourced from White Oak Farm, which is right down the road on the basically on the south end of Turkey Mountain, and they source or they make their maple syrup. We have here in Yorktown the furthest southern commercial maple syrup producer in New York State, and their syrup is amazing. So I highly recommend. You could get it at the brunch, and then if you go down there, they have information about maple syrup and sugaring and the whole 9 yards, and they have a nice little store set up. You could buy their syrup. You could buy local honey because they also have, I think, 10 hives over there. You could buy maple dog treats, which I know Sergio brought for Bentley last year, which he loved those. And we have...
We also have a wood mill.
yes, they actually do their own wood milling. And
I bought a piece of wood for a new mantle there, and it was wood that was on John Jay's property.
Homestead, the John
His
Jay Homestead.
yeah. Who was the first Supreme Court justice that we had. It's pretty interesting. The guy that did it did a wonderful job. But they got so much stuff going on there. It's really wonderful.
And in the winter, there's a nice story about you and how you suckered poor Brian to delivering your Christmas tree, setting it up, stringing the lights, and
He told you about that?
oh, he told everyone about it. It's on tape too, so you might want to watch that, Sergio.
You got to see the size of this tree too.
Yes, that's what he said.
Big.
So that's another fun thing. Coming up in Easter, the Lions and Parks and Recreation, of course, do their Easter egg hunt, and that is on April 15th. But they have 9:30, 10:30, and 11:30 huntings, and you might want to sign up on that because they sign up online. The Lions are also doing something called Egg My Yard on April 19th, starting at 8 p.m. So if you want to do that, just make sure you warn anyone else in the household that, hey, someone might be creeping around our yard at 10 o'clock. They'll do candy-filled eggs for the children to find. If you want the real eggs, it quadruples the price. And then so just a quick update on sewer for Halleck's Mills. We have been looking into alternative funding. We have also asked our engineer to start breaking down the cost of what we can get accomplished with the money we have, which is somewhere in the area of $13 million, to see if we could break it down into a smaller chunk than the 20-something. There's a possibility of some bonding, but we're very cautious about doing that because it adds to the Halleck's Mills district taxing for the people that live there. And the state controller will only let us go to a certain amount of money on that. But we are looking at that. I'm waiting for word from Congressman Lawler because there was supposed to be another $10 million in appropriations. There might be an issue with that because a lot of that stuff was pulled. So we will hopefully have an answer on that. It's not that they are not getting us the answer; they're trying to get the answer themselves. And but they are working on it, and I just had a great conversation with our state assemblyman Matt Slater, who is also trying to help us from a state point of view, and we have a conference call tomorrow with our engineer and our grant writer, and a path that was laid out by the state that we may be able to get some additional funding. And finally, we are going to talk to or send in a request for the East of Hudson funds, because there are some still sitting there that are unclaimed, to try to get them to expand the amount of money that we could use. But the big thing is we can use those funds up front versus the town having to lay it out and submit, which of course helps us in not having to raise taxes on that. If the money's there, we're able to utilize it. And we can't use general fund because it's a special sewer district. So it's very convoluted per se, but we're trying to dance the dance around it and really get the Halleck's Mills system expanded. And the last thing I just want to talk about, I personally don't watch social media, but someone had seen something, made a comment to me, and it was about opinions, and it basically criticized that we spoke last week about our ADU law, that a former town supervisor had some stuff on it, and we asked for that, and we put it out here with transparency on who it came from. But it bothered me that someone was critical to say, basically, we should not be listening to them because they might have some gain in this. And honestly, everyone who comes before the town for something, some change of law, or some property, or a permit, guess what? They have something that they would like that will give them a gain. It gives them something they want. But the ADU law is something that is very unselfish. It's something that we're trying to expand housing. And there are some pitfalls that we need to be careful about. We actually were trying to submit what we had out for public comment or refer it out to our department heads, and then have a hearing on it. But it turned out that, talking with our planning department, if we went that route, we'd probably delay the law by another 5 to 6 weeks easily, because there are going to be some considerable changes to make sure we protect and strengthen the neighborhoods that these will be happening in. We don't want to change the face of Yorktown too much. The ADU law may help with that, but as it stands, there's some reductions in sizes that could really have a change the characteristics of a lot of neighborhoods in town. So we're going to talk about that a little bit tonight. But back to opinion. We have a former town supervisor sitting on the town board who has always given opinion, whether wanted or not, but good opinion. Many times I've, thanked Susan for what she's brought up. We have a former town supervisor that sits on our planning board in Aaron Bach. We have had former town clerks whose opinion are very, very well taken, both with Jerry Schwab and Alice Roker. I think it's unconscionable to say that a person who served in office, we should discount their opinion, especially people that have served honorably and have done the best they can for the town. We have another former supervisor who was talking last week with Alon Gilbert. So these are all very, very important to everyone on the board, that we take that knowledge, that we're able to look at that. And the irony is that the law that people mistook Michael Grace was, he wasn't actually interested in the ADU law. He had comments on that. But really when he came before the board was something he wanted. It was under our local cottages law or caretaker law, which is totally different anyway, and not what we're looking at. So, I just especially in today's environment, I think it's really important that we're open-minded to all sides of the aisle, everyone who's served, everyone who hasn't served. That's what this room is about, and it really, like I said, I purposely don't look at the stuff online, and that's why. But when other people pick up on it, on either side of the aisle, it's really, it says that messaging is really off. And another former supervisor who is pretty much responsible for me being here is Al Capolini, because he's one of the people who pushed me to run. And Al was a Democrat. Al knew I was a Republican. But Al said, you just need people who care about the town. And that's really what I think everyone who sits up at this board table does. So I really would ask people to really think about what you say. It's real easy to be a keyboard warrior. It's a lot harder to have that conversation, and that's why I bring it up. All right, thank you. Luciana?
So I guess we all have little Dear John letters. Okay, so hi, Yorktown. For starters, I just want to say, great news. Registration for camps went fantastic. Rough news, it closed in like 30 minutes. At this time, there is an extensive waiting list. I do want you to know that the entire staff at the Parks and Rec Department is answering your calls, helping fit your child into a group, working diligently to get a counselor to run an extra group on the age groups that we may have demand because of the codes, and that no one's not being looked at. we will be visiting this. So if you do know anyone interested in working for the town and having these as a camp counselor or even a travel camp counselor or even hands-on to support and find counselors, please reach out to Jim Moderano at Parks and Rec. And I thank them, and I also apologize if anyone's had hardship with the registration, but we are all working towards building the program up and having more availability for the students. That's one. The other thing is, I guess to piggyback to what Supervisor Lackerman just said, I'm getting a lot of pushback on what I'm actually saying. So I want to be very clear. For one, I am against fully residential ground mount solar, even if it's in a farm, unless it's to certain variances. Other than that, I'm all for ground mount elsewhere if it fits into the code. I'm not for it in residential, so I'm going to name that. And my second is, I was told that I was also against the sensory garden. I am not against the sensory garden. I'm against not knowing the specifics with what the water feature would be outside of the DASNY note that we have now with a grant of $50,000, what donations we will have, where the costs would go, how big will it be, and who will maintain it, because that will be considerable to the town. Just as it was mentioned when we turned on the fluoride, receiving that grant and that funding from the government, we turned it on. Just because we turned it on and then decided to turn it off, we were not returning it. That's simply what Councilman Sergio Esposito was trying to say, that we acted in good faith based on what the funding was for, and it was specific to that, just like this DASNY grant is specific to the sensory garden. And until we all sit down and see the specs, then I will have more of an opinion. So I just wanted to name those two because I've been getting a lot of pushback on both. So that's all.
Luciana, I will say that just there's a distinct difference between DASNY and the fluoride. The fluoride grant was given and used. The DASNY has not been used yet.
But
so
the DASNY, well, what I meant by was DASNY's allocated to the sensory garden.
Correct.
Just like that grant that was used and honored based on the terms was for the fluoridation.
Correct.
So all of them have been honored. That's what I'm saying.
Yes, very good.
And that grant was actually received and spent. There was some stuff all over online that we were trying to look into if it would be safe to receive, but which was completely inaccurate and a misstatement. But anyway, Maple Weekend is coming. I think Ed already mentioned it. It's Luciana's birthday on Friday. Is it Friday?
That's true.
Happy birthday to you.
That's a rough one.
We had a grand opening. A new owner took over for Rita's. So I'm gonna keep it along the business line because we continue to expand our business space here, and we continue to fill empty storefronts at a very high rapid pace, which is it's nice to see. I've been getting people that say, it's been quite a number of years since we've seen this such positive movement in our business community, and it's really wonderful to see. We had a grand opening for Wipe Your Paws. Did we mention that last week?
I think you did.
I think I did. All right. And then we had the Act of Kindness Day with Captain Scroy, Captain Kenny Scroy at the police department. That was great. You want to just mention what was going on there?
Yeah, well, basically in honor of Ken Scroy, who passed away suddenly on January 2nd of 2023, the Yorktown Police do beard, no shave. They pay for that honor, and they raise money for two charities. This year it was, and News 12 got it wrong, Alliance for Safe Kids and United for the Troops. So they raised over $3,000 from that, and people dropped off donations. And talking with Liz Talbert from ASK and with Jim Ratchmit from United for the Troops, they did receive other donations in addition to what the police raised that were flagged because of Act of Kindness Day.
So I've been working on getting this one particular restaurant in town for about 4 years now, and I think we are very close. And so a part of the Turco's building which is going to be subdivided. I spoke about that in the past. We might be getting a very nice restaurant coming in there, adding to the amount of restaurants that we have. I know everybody always says, there's not really a lot of places to eat in Yorktown, and I mean, with the advent of Miraggio's coming and the Latin Fusion place, and now this restaurant. So I'm looking forward to getting them in there, and that building being full. And I believe
That building's going to be full.
that building's going to be full. There are already two commitment letters out and signed for 2/3 of the building, two separate businesses, and this would be the final third. So that'll be nice to see that building filled. And then with the Latin Fusion place coming in that parking lot, I don't think there'll be one small vacancy. Who I got a call from I won't give you the name, but it's a very popular bakery, Italian bakery in the Bronx, and they want to open up a bakery here.
Do they live here?
They live here, yeah.
Oh my
yeah.
gosh,
She reached
really?
out to me on Facebook, and so Sunday morning I spent a couple hours driving her around to show her the amount of places that we had that would fit in her.
Did she bring her
size.
kids?
She didn't. She said she brought me a pastry, but she forgot it in her fridge. So, so she'll get it to me next time. But that's another place, and that would be a really cool addition. One that will replace the longtime bakery that we lost. Because the gentleman just retired. So a lot of stuff going on, a lot of positive stuff, and I want to keep it positive. And so if you guys ever need anything, just reach out to me. I'm always around. Thank you.
Alrighty. So I'll make mine kind of brief. So at the library, for March 24th and 29th, they have stories and crafts. One quick example is Rosie, the engineer. They'll go in there, they'll read the book to her, and then they'll play the Legos for kids, kindergarten through 3rd grade. But it's good for the kids. Bring your kids to the library. Go online. There's so much activity over there, And then let's see. Tonight, Pete Harcum, Matt Slater, and Dana Levenberg, they had a Zoom call talking about the utilities. So it'll be interesting to see what comes out of that. And Videk Gashi is going to have one April 18th and 19th that you can go on and voice your opinion about the high price of your Con Ed bills. And Ed, that White Oak Farm is incredible. I've been in town for 60 years, and I've never been there. And they have 220 trees that are all linked up with a hose that they tap into to get the syrup out of. It's pretty impressive. So if you have kids and you're looking for something to do for a couple hours, Brian and the staff are down there are phenomenal, and it's very, very entertaining and very, very educational. So, but that's about it.
Okay, I have several items. Just to pick up on the issue you raised, Ed, about the comments about the ADU. Certainly, we always welcome public comments, on what we're doing. Not just, you don't have to wait for public hearings, but there's always email and phone calls to let us know. I think the issue that concerns some people about the Michael Grace comments was that the ADU law that the Community Housing Board was presenting was not sent to all of the town board members, but obviously Michael Grace saw a comment, about it, that he was provided with a comment, so that the comments that you then sent to the town board members did not say it came from Michael Grace, it came from you, but it basically was, we learned at the meeting last week that it was Michael Grace's comments. So
Well, Susan,
so I think it was just a question of when he provided the comments. No, we absolutely want public comments.
So Ken had sent it. I did not realize he didn't send it to the whole board because I was on my phone when I saw it. So I know that Michael and I have had the conversation because it's something, as I've stated numerous times, and I've even spoken with Ken about this in the past. I think it's an important aspect and something we need to look at. We've already addressed ADUs once with the program from Habitat, and I apologize that Ken didn't send it to everyone first. I didn't realize, but I would send that to, a matter of fact, I think I sent Ken Michael's comments back just to look at and tell me, what do you think? Because, I'd rather have people that are well-versed, that have looked at this for probably decades, because Michael was our town attorney probably when that law was written. And I think it's just, I'm not going to tell anyone in this room I'm the smartest man at the table.
Well, I
But
think
I'm definitely going to try to utilize the ones who have the knowledge in those areas.
and I think the Community Housing Board, and I say this because I'm liaison, so I have some sense of how they've been operating, that they actually met with the zoning board people and attended zoning board meetings. The zoning board are the people who issue the special permits. So before they crafted the law that they sent to us, they actually met with the experts, the town's experts.
On zoning,
On-
but
no,
not on
the-
planning.
The experts on ADUs. They
No.
met with the experts who deal month after month, year after year with ADUs, and that's how they crafted it. But let me just go
Sure.
on. I just
Go
want
on.
to clarify that. I'm very happy to let people know that this week, March 16th to March 22nd, is Sunshine Week. If you've never heard of Sunshine Week, it's celebrated every year. It's a nationwide effort to promote transparency and open government. And it applies to the public, to the media, to government agencies. In New York State, we have two valuable laws, the Freedom of Information Law and the Open Meetings Law. They are the cornerstones of transparency and open government. But the laws are useless if they just stay on pieces of paper and if we don't use them. So I encourage all of you to use the Freedom of Information Law, where you submit requests and there's an application online. If you have any questions about, am I really entitled to that particular document? Well, there's a website, the Committee on Open Government, which is a state agency. Their website is opengovernment.ny.gov. They have hundreds of advisory opinions. When people have asked, am I entitled to X, under what circumstances, and it could be town board, it could be school board, they will issue an advisory opinion, and they will be citing court cases. So you can look it up, and they have a fantastic system. They're all, you can search by topic under an alphabetical system. So I encourage you to use that. The Open Meetings Law is very different. That's something that's a function, and compliance with that is more a question of how this town board and all other town boards, as well as advisory boards like the Planning Board and the Zoning Board, operate. And the best example I can give you of the importance of the Open Meetings Law is a discussion we had last week about the solar law. That was the second meeting on what amendments that the five of us want to see in the solar law. That discussion, it was like sausage making. And sometimes you don't want to know how the sausage is made. Well, those open meeting discussions showed that among the five of us, we had different opinions on what to do. And we're still working that out. And that's what the Open Meetings Law is all about. In the past, unfortunately, when I sat on your side of the audience, we were presented with a law, and we had no idea what impact. We were just given a piece of paper that said, this is what we want, and we don't know how they came to that and whether there was any disagreement. So I encourage you to please, you have the tools, but we have to use those tools.
It started in 2002 in Florida.
And
You could do education and civics and journalism.
also, I want to just add on to what Luciana said about the sensory garden. There's been some concern about what was happening because the grant was given several years ago. It's a $50,000 grant. And in October, the board directed the Jim Arterano, our superintendent of Parks and Recreation, to create a subcommittee to flesh that out, because there was a lot of questions about what was happening. That committee has been meeting, and as of February, they have reported that they've been getting estimates on what it will cost. Right now, they're up to $150,000, but that's not the complete cost because it doesn't have one of the key aspects. They're going to need a supply of water, because if you're going to have plants, you've got to water them, because apparently there are problems with the soil there. It's a combination of soil and wind, and the landscaping that they have tried to put on has not survived, or has not survived well. So the watering is a condition. So we don't know yet what the ultimate cost will be, but it certainly is going to exceed the grant. There's been talk that a donor is available who will write an open check, but we don't know that. So I think that we need more work, because if the donor's not going to pay the full cost, whatever that cost is, then the issue is going to come, does the town board want to pick up the rest? So there are still a lot of questions about the sensory garden, but they are working out their things. Ed, thank you for the update on Halleck's Mill Sewer Extension. I think the good news is that that we can apparently tap into the $10 million East of Hudson money to help pay the upfront costs. As much as I believe in going out for grants, there's a point at which we have to say, look, we're not getting anything. One grant we've been rejected twice on, okay? Because of the budgetary issues in Washington, it doesn't look like we're going to get the $10 million that Congressman Lawler has gotten an authorization for, but as I think we have painfully learned, authorizations are meaningless. It's the appropriations that count, and it doesn't look like it's going to be in this budget. But I did place a call to Congressman Lawler's office to say, what's the status of two previous grants we got? We had $1.2 million from Congressman Mondaire Jones and $1.2 million from Lawler from the previous budget year. And I wanted to find out if those appropriations were still available. That said, we have the $13 million that we can count on. I'd like at the April meeting, I have been asking the engineering department to say, how many streets, how many houses can we sewer with $13 million plus a reasonable cost for homeowners? Because the homeowners, well, they should pay something for it. And that's what I've been waiting for. I asked for that several meetings ago, and I hope that by April 11th work session, we can have those figures and we can go forward. I'd love to see not just the 315 houses, but the 600 unsewered houses be sewered. But we have to be realistic, and we just have to go forward, and we have to do that. So I just hope that that can be done on April 11th, because we know it costs X dollars for X linear feet. We know what the linear feet is for each street, so it's a simple calculation to figure out what the estimated cost will be. Also, as long as I'm talking about sewers, we do need an update on the Halleck's Mill pump stations. We have a $5.8 million grant for that, estimated at a $7.2 million.
Susan, I
job.
have a conference with bond counsel on Thursday
Well,
to talk about that.
we've got to proceed because that money was given
What
to.
do you think that is doing, Susan?
Well, it's 2020.
Susan, we've had this conversation,
Yeah,
but I need to talk to bond
Well,
counsel. I am not going to burden the taxpayers, and I've had this conversation before, and excuse me for putting it out in public again. I am not going to overburden our taxpayers, and I'm going to find a way to take the grant without crushing everyone, because we can't. If I go to bond on $5 million or $7 million, which the whole job is going to take place, I have to have that money in place. You know that. You've sat in this seat, and the interest alone will crush those smaller districts.
And that's why I said, so we can do it. There are 4 pump stations involved. Actually, we have a 5th. We need to do the farm walk station. So we can do it piece by piece, because there is a fund balance already in the Halleck's Mill Sewer District that we have to work on that. The previous meetings, you said we couldn't go ahead with the Halleck's Mill Sewer Extension because of money, but we have found out with a few phone calls that we can get that money. So that issue has been off the table. But we need to
The
proceed.
other one is reimbursable.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
but
when
that's
it's
reimbursable, but
reimbursable, that's a problem for our taxpayers.
There is a fund balance in the Halleck's Mill Sewer District, and we have to look at it, even if we have to do it piecemeal. Otherwise, why go for grant? Most grants, not all, are matching grants, so we can always say, well, we can't do that.
Right. Our engineer agrees with you 100%, and I agree with you 100%. But we have to, and that's why I want to talk to bond counsel, and I want to make sure we do it properly within the law and within our budget.
And I'd like to, all I'm saying is I'd like to see some progress being made on it, because it's been hanging around since 2021. The other issue, which I just want to give a heads up to residents, there are 11 sewer districts in town that are part of the Peekskill system, and the town staff has been working on a plan dealing with how to cover the operation and maintenance costs, and I'm hoping that that can be discussed in no later than the April 11th meeting, because that could possibly impact the May 1st tentative assessment roll. So we have a deadline for that, so I'm just giving you a heads up, and that's going to need an informational meeting because it's going to be a significant change, and we don't have any cost figures on that yet, all right? But we need to start letting people know what town staff is doing because there is a May 1st deadline. So again, I'm asking for an April meeting on that. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. One thing that I did neglect, and this is an important one, I want to give congratulations to Coach Ellen Pikula and players Mike Bubb of Shrub Oak and Samantha Frederick of Yorktown Heights. They're members of the Northeast Westchester Special Recreations mixed floorball team, and they competed in Italy in the Special Olympics and took home the bronze medal out of everyone in the world, basically. So a huge congratulations.
Very cool.
Ellen, Mike, and Samantha. So, yep, you can find out some more information on our website. I think that's, Robin got that posted up for us already and on Facebook. So thank you. All right. So, proclamations. You want to start with?
Yep. Perfect. We'll start with World Down Syndrome Awareness Day. Whereas World Down Syndrome Awareness Day is observed on the 21st day of March, this Friday, every year, which has been officially observed by the United Nations since 2012, and whereas Down syndrome is a disorder that occurs when there is a duplication of the 21st chromosome that affects approximately 6,000 babies at birth every year. And whereas the date for World Down Syndrome Awareness Day is the 21st of March and was selected to signify the uniqueness of the triplication of the 21st chromosome, which causes Down syndrome. I thought it was duplication, I guess it's both. Okay. The duplication, causes Down syndrome. World Down Syndrome Awareness Day is a day to raise public awareness, promote inclusivity, encourage advocacy, and support the well-being of those individuals living with Down syndrome. And whereas the town of Yorktown vows to come together and raise awareness of those individuals living with Down syndrome, and now therefore be it resolved that the town board of the town of Yorktown proclaims March 21st, 2025, Down Syndrome Awareness Day in the town of Yorktown. And for those who may not know, Game Day will be holding their annual Down syndrome awareness with Gigi's Place on the 21st, right here in the center of town.
Yep. Very good. All right. Neil, were you Vietnam also? You were. Thank you. Do we have any other Vietnam vets here? Carl, we have Neil. Any other? No. Well, thank you, gentlemen, and I'd like to read National Vietnam War Veterans Day. But I will say we'll be reading this. We will be reading this again at 12 noon on the 29th, right at the Veteran Memorials Circle, formerly known as Patriot Park, by the skate park here. Whereas the Vietnam War Veterans Recognition Act was signed into law in 2017, and March 29th is recognized as National Vietnam War Veterans Day, when the town of Yorktown and the nation will honor and recognize the service and sacrifice of our Vietnam War veterans and their families. And whereas the town of Yorktown respects all who have fallen and paid the ultimate price for our nation, and whereas today we remember the thousands of men and women who served our nation during the Vietnam War and thank them for their service, and whereas the freedoms we and other nations enjoy today are a direct result of the courage, sacrifice, and devotion of the members of the United States Armed Forces, we as American citizens are grateful for their strength and dedication, and whereas the people of Yorktown are inspired by our veterans and will never forget their loyalty to our great country now, be it resolved that the town board of the town of Yorktown proclaims March 29th, 2025 as National Vietnam War Veterans Day in the town of Yorktown, and encourage everyone to remember and respect our veterans for their service year-round. And I will also add to this, welcome home, gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you for your service.
We do have one that a resident who is actively on dialysis sent us in recognition of National Kidney Month, which is in March as well. Sergio?
National Kidney Month 2025. March is National Kidney Month, a time when communities across the country raise awareness about kidney disease. This year's focus is on taking charge of your health and the many factors that go into managing your kidney disease. Chronic kidney disease, CKD, is a serious condition affecting around 35.5 million people. Often overlooked until symptoms appear, CKD is progressive and can put you at risk for serious health complications, including heart attack, stroke, and kidney failure. Adopting a healthy lifestyle can help you manage CKD and its complications from progressing. Follow these healthy lifestyle habits to take charge of your kidney health. Meet regularly with your healthcare team. Staying connected with your doctor, whether in person or using telehealth via phone or computer, can help you maintain your kidney health. Manage blood pressure and manage and monitor blood glucose levels. Work with your doctor to develop a plan to meet your blood pressure goals and check your blood glucose level regularly if you have diabetes. Take medicine as prescribed and avoid NSAIDs like ibuprofen and naproxen. Your pharmacist and doctor need to know about all the medications you take. Aim for a healthy weight. Create a healthy meal plan and consider working with your doctor to develop a weight loss plan that works for you. Reduce stress. Reduce stress. And make physical activity part of your routine. Consider healthy stress-reducing activities and get at least 30 minutes or more of physical activity each day. Make time for sleep. Aim for 7 to 8 hours of sleep per night. Quit smoking. If you smoke, take steps to quit. And consider organ donation. And on that last note, I will tell you that a friend of mine, one of my fraternity brothers, his wife has polycystic kidney disease. She is, there's 4 women in the town of Yorktown that I see. There's a flyer here. They're having a Zumba Gold fundraiser event at the East Coast Sports and Fitness. It's going to be in June, and I'll announce it again. Unfortunately, they actually had a kidney for this person. I won't name her. And it failed before they were able to give it to her. So she was so incredibly close. And so I'll mention it again, and hopefully we could support them, because this is just like Down syndrome, something really terrible that hopefully we conquer in the not-too-distant future. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Sergio. And we're going to kick it right back to Sergio, because I see his computer opened from our poet laureate.
Oh, yeah. All right. I Guess I Should Have Listened to Her by John McMullen. My wife Barbara and I have lived in the same house, a 250-year-old barn, for about half our lives. She, formerly the president of our 35-year consulting firm, is now a college professor while I am a published poet. One day last fall, she said, "These books are getting heavy. We should get one of those devices that take you up and down." "Good idea," I responded. "I know some people who have them. I'll call them." And I let it slide. I knew that one of the reasons she wanted the stair lift was her concern for me falling in the narrow staircase. She was always warning me about carrying too much up on the stairs. What? It's only a bag of books and the puppy. On November 10th, 2024, right hand on banister, puppy and bag in left, right hand slips. Fall backward 4 steps, puppy escapes injury, I have a broken hip. Hey, you were right. Surgery, 5 days in the hospital, 100 days in rehab facility, home in 1 room for 3 weeks, in 1 room because I can't stand or walk, but I have therapists, a nurse, and aides, and I will walk. And Barbara only rarely but regularly says, "I told you so." And I have yet to be able to walk over and take a ride on our new stair lift. I guess I should have listened to her. And I got to tell you, this is by John McMullen, our poet laureate. I went to visit him the other day, and he is doing well. He's in good spirits. I know he's not walking yet, so but he's getting there. Hopefully someday soon.
Yeah.
All right. So who's going to come up to represent Mohegan Lake and introduce everyone?
That'd be you,
Mr.
Matt.
Ness, thank you.
You can bring some backup if you want.
Yep. How are you today?
I'm well. How are you?
Good.
Hey, Matt.
Hello.
Looks like we got a little echo. They're getting Paulie on. We good there? All right. Thank you, Robin.
How you doing, Matt?
Doing
Doing well.
so
Congratulations, by the way. I saw
thank you.
something on Facebook.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
So Matt, explain to us why you're here today.
So, I missed it, but a couple of Fridays or Saturdays ago, the Mohegan Volunteer Fire Association held their annual dinner. At the presentation, the ambulance corps also was invited, being that we're also a byproduct of the MVFA. So at the awards dinner, the three gentlemen back there, actually four, one's on Zoom, were given their awards for making our yearly points. So the way that our system works is that we aren't paid. So the way that we get benefits from our system is we have a point per hour and then a point per call system. So for every year, you need to make 3% of your points. So we do average, I think last year we broke 3,935 calls. So do that by 3%. That's our minimum requirement that we make. However, our system is so busy that we have put on, I personally, since becoming the chief in April, have put on a demand on our volunteers to really step it up and to really make our agency great. So these four gentlemen that got announced at the meeting were all presented with awards over 800 calls or 800 points for the year. That is a considerable amount of time that they donate to the town and to our ambulance corps. On top of that, we really had a cultural revolution in Mohegan, and one thing that I stressed upon our membership since becoming the chief is not only creating a sense of community within our community and providing an ambulance for our community, which we serve both the town of Cortland and the town of Yorktown, but really make a camaraderie within ourselves and in our agency. Get rid of some egos, get rid of toxicity, and just be a place for everyone to go. You guys want to volunteer? You guys can come, but just make it some place that you want to go to and you have fun, but you also provide a service. So these four gentlemen are what we call Paulie, who's on Zoom, not so much, but the three gentlemen that are here are what we call the Breakfast Club, and they are there every single morning from 5:30 until 10, sometimes 11, sometimes like us today until 4 o'clock, running calls all day, and we had a very busy day. These gentlemen come in every single morning. They have coffee, they eat, they stir up problems for me to deal with. But there's a bunch. They laugh a lot, and that's what we really want in our agency is not just a home, but a service that provides a home. And that's what we also try to bring to your living rooms as well when you need us. So you want me to introduce all of them?
Well, why don't you start with your other staff that's here?
So we also have our two ALS commissioners, our liaisons that deal with the advanced life support, with which we present to them, and they do their undesirable, the stressful job that they have to make sure we have really good medical care coming to you. So in the back you have Paul Turiano and Tony Ino and Anthony Ino.
So I will say one of the privileges of being the town supervisor is getting invited to the dinner. And this year I got to recognize two 25-year members and two 50-year members. I think last year, did you have 3 50 years?
I believe so.
I believe so.
Yeah. So we have quite the dedicated group of people volunteering for our town and really doing the right thing. And you talk about inclusivity. At the dinners, you know everyone is welcome, heard, respected, and there was a great. I know you weren't there. I think you had a concert call, but everyone got along great, and it was so wonderful to see the kids and the adults, so to speak. The guys have been doing it 25, 30 years, but what I was very impressed upon, what was your 3,900 calls, right?
Yeah, 3,935.
So, you know, if you look at the points, we're pretty much over that with these four gentlemen. So it's very, very impressive, and there was a huge gap. So we don't normally recognize that at the dinner from the town point of view. So I did ask for the team to come in today and give us an opportunity to say thank you as a whole, because whether it's YVAC or Mohegan Volunteer Ambulance, we rely on the services, and to see the dedication here is just special. It really
Those
is.
guys are averaging over 2 calls a day.
Us, we're 14.
No, I'm just saying the individuals.
yeah.
That's that's impressive.
Not Gus.
It's
Gus-
impressive.
Gus is a little above that.
No, yeah, I know you do, but just if you average it out, it's over 2 a day every day for a year. It's pretty impressive. You guys do a phenomenal job.
So part of the Breakfast Club, and if you don't mind, we have Robert Grasso, and this is a certificate of achievement, and you've achieved outstanding performance with 866 points accumulated, and have distinguished yourself as a leader among your peers at the Mohegan Volunteer Ambulance Corps on this 18th day of March 2025. On behalf of the town board of the town of Yorktown, hereby express appreciation of a grateful community for the exemplary service provided for your dedication. Robert, can you come up? You can, yeah. When everyone's up, we'll come up and do a quick picture, but shake hands. So, Paulie, you're gonna come out. You're gonna fly up here and help us out. No, I don't think that's happening. So for Paul, Paul's special too. Paul's numbers probably would have been higher, but his wife was dealing with some medical issues, and you know, he may have given you a run for the money, Gus. You know. But he does spend. I also want to give him kudos, because Paulie, whenever the seniors are doing something at the senior center and having a party, Paulie comes in and DJs it complimentary. He wants to, he gives back to the seniors in our town, and he and Donna do a great job at that, and it's so much appreciated. And this year he even managed to find some karaoke versions of Dion and the Belmont songs, because one of our residents is actually one of the original Belmonts, and he was singing, and there might be me caught on tape singing with him, but I'll deny that, and it's just a screeching noise from the pipes that you're hearing. I was just lip syncing. So Paulie completed 975 points, or accumulated 975 points this year. Paulie, thank you so much.
Impressive.
Thank you so much for the acknowledgement and recognition. You and your team do a fabulous job for Yorktown. And of course, I'm very proud to serve our communities for the last 28 years. It shows the pride that we're there for, when the time arises, you're there for the help that they need, and we're there for them. And, we can just be all in one family. And of course, our leadership has done a tremendous job building the family atmosphere, the friendly atmosphere, the social. I can't thank enough Matt Restivo, Matt Nass, Jake Tussle, Paul Cirillo for the amazing job what they're doing with this Mohegan Ambulance Corps. And of course the fire as well, great officers. What I can say, I'm very proud to serve this community for the last 28 years, and hope to serve as far as we're around to do it. It's a very proud thing to do for our community. And you recognizing us and acknowledging all of our members and the top responders, I cannot thank you enough. You and your team do an amazing job for the town of Yorktown, and first responders, including YPD, fire, and all the ambulance corps around us.
Thank you, Paulie. God bless, and safe trip. So. All right, Michael, you want to come up, Michael Cole? Michael has achieved 1,019 points.
Nice.
We'll come up in a minute.
Congratulations. And thank you for your service.
So those numbers are extremely, extremely impressive. But we have one more.
He doesn't
We
think so.
we
He's like, nah.
we have Gus Stretz. Gus, besides being the photographer at all the events, Gus. This has to be
Gosh,
an
how
error.
much coffee do you drink?
Gus has achieved 1,823 points.
Now I know what I'm getting you for Christmas.
Thank you for your service. I know. Yeah. Do you want to say something at the mic?
Yeah, let's say
I've never known you to be short on words.
I just want to thank everybody for their support, the board on both sides, all the people with their little helping out, candy cane runs and things like that we do through the year. And for Matt, where is he?
Right behind you.
you.
Without him, we would have fallen down
Yeah.
a long time ago. Matt's been very good. He's brought this ambulance corps way up, and we've gotten more and more people to join, and it's all because of him.
Good job.
Thank you.
Great job. So Gus, Gus, we're gonna do a quick photo. Stay there, please, because we have to shake hands too. The long and the short of it is, we appreciate all of our first responders, but and I thank every one of you out there, and everyone who gives, not only for the town of Yorktown, the state of New York, and our country, but it's really, these are some impressive numbers. The dedication. And I know that it's not the company keeping you all together during the the Breakfast Club. It's really, you guys are a beacon for what this volunteerism is. It's camaraderie, it's service, and it's really doing the right thing. So I thank you, and I want to come around and shake hands.
Just don't trip.
Paulie, this is for you.
That's it. Appreciate it. Thanks very much for all your support.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you.
That made his day, by the way.
That's all right.
Thank you so much
Thank
for your
you,
service.
too.
Just don't come to my place in Jefferson Village, please.
Oh, we're there all the time.
I don't want
for
you to-
support.
Your guys, you guys are doing volunteer. Congratulations.
Come on.
Yes.
Paulie, thank you. Hold on, Paulie.
Yeah. And to ADUs. Guys, again, thank you for your service.
One of the things that makes Yorktown so exceptional. Thank you. I know we heard the walkies going off, so hopefully you guys don't have to run to a call.
Come up one morning, have coffee with us.
At 5:30 in the morning.
Thank you, guys. Take care.
You guys got espresso,
Maybe
right?
after the pastry shop comes up, we'll have some cannolis.
Here we go.
There you go.
All right, Mr. Tegater, you want to come up so we can talk about the ADUs?
Giovanni?
So, John, I'm sorry. I thought I printed off. I have the wrong paper here. I have solar siding instead of that. But I know we've been going back and forth with the model law that Ken Belfour. And Ken, if you want to sit on that side too, or stand. There you go. Oh, you're all right, Ken. Okay.
Ken.
No, these aren't John's comments, right? These are right. No, just for yours. I understand that you don't want to get too involved per se in the law, and we could take a second bite of the apple to fine tune some of the other things. But there are definitely some concerns over the neighborhoods as they exist and what ends up happening as we progress with this. So, John, some of the concerns that we have bantered back and forth. And Maura, why don't you come up front too? You're part of this committee.
Well, my concern, as I began to describe, I believe it was last week, was mostly as it revolves around detached units. And some of the numbers play into that, but it's mostly the standard that we've already set within the zoning around town of those neighborhoods. And a detached unit, for instance, following some of the numbers here, new detached unit built, purpose-built at 1,000 square feet, which would probably be in the 3-bedroom range, I think would, if you kept doing them around the neighborhood, would change the character of the neighborhood. It would start to, for a 40,000 square foot zone, you're really now allowing a doubling of the population and density in that zone, and it kind of diminishes really what the original intent of the zone was. So, when you look at some of what Ken did, which is change some of the numbers, which is fine, but I don't think it's only about numbers. Numbers you need to have in there to have maximums and so forth, and get the zoning board involved in whether or not they need to do a variance and things of that nature. But I think in this regard, if we're going to do it detached units, that you have to think about what the effect on the neighborhoods will be if this becomes misused in any way.
Right. So I know Ken spent a lot of time with planning and went over this. So really with zoning, right? And so it's a planning issue that's more like these are the neighborhoods, these are the zones, this is what they were set up for.
Yeah.
It's sort of like the neighborhood I live in, where
zoning deals with that as well.
Yeah,
of course.
But I think there's an aspect that planning really looks at as well, and that's.
But I'm sorry.
That's okay. Go.
But you don't. So, you've mentioned it several times, and you've said detached units. You don't have the same concern if it was a basement. I mean, wouldn't
I have I have the same concern of the numbers increasing, but it's a lesser concern because, say, it's a basement apartment in a larger
it may not
home,
necessarily rise to that
1,000
level.
square feet may not have really any visual impact to the neighborhood. It will have an impact because there will be another family there.
It would be a doubling, right?
There could be a doubling or something like that.
could
There'll
be,
be more cars, more traffic. Is it minimal for 1 or 3 or 4, 5 houses? Yeah, but if it's most of the units in the neighborhood, there would be an effect to it.
So we currently have the ADU law, right? I mean, so you can have ADUs. So
You can have ADUs in within the main house, and you can have it in detached accessory structures only on a second story, and it has to be an existing accessory structure, and you cannot change the original use of the accessory structure. So you really, what we're talking about is something like a
Above
garage.
a garage.
Right? And above the garage, right.
And given those parameters, there aren't many ADUs that have popped up over the many number of years that they've been allowed,
Detached? There has not.
detached or otherwise.
Right. We see, we do have them, but sometimes they come on. They gain approval under another section of code, which is the conversion of a like a caretaker's cottage. So usually you'll find them on older structures on larger pieces of property, and one of the requirements, for instance, is you have to prove that in the event that it needs to be split, it can be subdivided off. So it takes into account that overusing a parcel of land in a way that wasn't originally intended, and that now that they're separate uses, two main uses on the same lot, which is specifically prohibited in our code, now that that would be there, that you can actually separate that out at some time, if, for whatever reason may come in the future, so.
So it seems to me that the ADU law, as it's written, as I interpret it as it's written, and I think its intent, has always been for existing single-family houses and existing detached structures. For example, one of the ones that the Habitat is working with now, there was an existing detached garage, and they're just doing a breezeway. That's the one with a disabled child who wants to live independently. So they're just putting a breezeway from the main house to the existing detached. I think the issue that was raised in that previous memo that we talked about, Michael Grace's memo, was building a new detached unit, and he wasn't building an accessory unit. He was building a caretaker's cottage, and caretaker's cottage, which are allowed in zones 2 acres or more, very specifically say they are for guests or for employees. They are not ADUs. So I think the only change, if you're concerned about the new detached, is just to clarify that it's for detached accessory buildings existing as of the time of this law being passed, and that would clarify that. The other concern about the neighborhood, I think there are multiple sections within the existing ADU law that talk about the zoning board before they grant the special permit, because remember, this is not as of right. You have to prove to the zoning board that you're not going to negatively impact the neighborhood. In fact, I think there's one provision in the law, and I'm sorry I don't have it in front of me, that says they will look at how many are in your neighborhood or in your street, and if there are too many, they will just deny it.
I think it has to be renewed every 3 years or something like that.
A special permit
well.
so the one you have to go through the whole public hearing process, notifying all the abutting property owners. That's the first hurdle. The second and during that process, the zoning board will look at all factors: landscaping, traffic, the adequacy of parking, the architectural treatment, which was your concern, Sergio. But they will also look at how many other ADUs are existing in this neighborhood. Oh no, sorry, we have too many. We want to keep the character of a single-family neighborhood. So I think that's very much already written into the law. So with those two concerns, one, the law protects it, number one, already, and two, that if you're concerned about new detached, which is what Michael Grace wasn't, he wasn't a new ADU. He was a new caretaker's cottage, which wouldn't qualify to begin with because it's not an ADU. So I think what the housing board has already done basically addresses those two concerns. Just add the word.
Well, there were some issues. We spoke about in the law. You don't right now. The ADU law has us upstairs, and then you can move downstairs. Now, Michael does also have, I believe, a garage on the property as well. So now, does that mean they could utilize it downstairs? And I know you wanted to drop that where you don't have to be upstairs; you can be downstairs. They wanted to talk about being able to say, well, I own the property, but I'd rather live in the ADU than live in the house because I don't need as much space because I'm older. And, so that's where I think some of his points met up very much with what the housing board came up with. But the zoning board can say we have too many. They could say we don't have too many. But what's the definition of too many?
Well, that's what you get into.
Right.
Where's the cutoff?
Well,
And
that's
how do
what
you
the
justify
planning
that?
board, the zoning board deals with. All of these factors are subjective. I mean, we're dealing with the solar law, and we're saying what's reasonable and practical screening. What is traffic? Any development is going to increase traffic. Are you going to have 10 additional cars in peak hour? That's acceptable, but 15 is not acceptable. There's no black and white. Almost everything that you deal with from a planning perspective becomes a subjective decision by planning board, zoning board, or the town board.
Right.
But to what? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, but maybe the idea is to look at the percentage of houses on a street, because once you cross a certain threshold, may say it's 40%, 50%. That's a pretty big change. It's 50% of the houses on a street. Whether it's a 4-house street or a 40-house street, you're talking about adding another half on it.
Yeah,
And
I don't think that they would. I don't think they would, but do it. But if they were arbitrary in selecting, this is going to change the character at this next accessory unit, and they didn't support that in some way with some detail, I think it would be a flawed. So, and I don't think they do that. I think that they support their decisions pretty well. But that's what you'll get into. That's what you can get into if you're reaching that point of what is too much in terms of numbers.
Well, we could specify that. We could go percentage wise. We could say within a 2 square mile, we
Well,
could
if
say you
you're
can
doing-
only have a percentage.
Right. If you're going to allow new detached units,
Well,
I don't know. I don't
either
know
way,
that.
but my
I'm not
point.
so sure I'm hearing that completely.
But
Yeah,
my
they're two
point,
separate issues.
my point was, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, they're two separate issues. The new detached is one issue, and then a percentage for neighborhood character, which could be within the same single-family house. You're just shifting.
right, but you have to be careful even with the new detached, because isn't it in Croton where they're doing one 10 feet off the neighbor's backyard?
Yes. So
But these are parameters that we could. I'm sorry, John. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I'm
I'll
sorry.
speak when you're done.
I was just going to answer him, so
Go ahead.
I wasn't interjecting really. Croton has gone through this somewhat, and they have a law, and they actually have some projects that have gone through. Now, a couple of them are in existing accessory buildings. They are small, 400, 500 square feet. There was one 6 or 7, something like that. There was one, though, that was built, new construction, built at 800 square feet with an open porch in excess of that, a covered porch screened in. And it was about 10 or 11 feet off the lot line, had its own driveway, and at 1,000 square feet or whatever it was, 800, it was essentially, when you looked at it,
Looked like another house.
Another unit, another single-family unit on that same piece of property, yet only 10 feet from its neighbor. And I don't know if they approved it or if they disapproved it, but that's the kind of thing that would concern me.
But we can build parameters into a well thought out law. Still try to facilitate the need for this type of stuff for ADUs in our community. And I'll go back to what I said originally. I don't think I made it clear. I understand there some units came in under a different law. That's a different problem than that, or not a problem at all. I don't know. It depends on your perspective. I don't think it would be a problem, but I'm looking at what came in under the existing ADU law. And Ken, you probably have the exact number. How many ADUs do we actually have existing in Yorktown right now under the current law? I don't think there's that many. Exactly right.
No. I think it's
Please don't yell out.
So I don't foresee this proliferation of of all of what everybody's saying, only because I'm looking at the history of it, and our history shows that nobody has really taken advantage
You have
of
to
it.
remember that history is based on within the existing dwelling.
And you got to take the
The
bigger
detached
lot.
that you see that is now being crossed out is only from 2005 or 6.
So, but my point is that you just specified the parameters which have limited, the proliferation of it. We can expand the law a little and still have parameters that protect our neighborhoods,
Yeah, no,
and
I
and,
think
and
you can.
accomplish both things. But accomplish, contributions to the housing crisis that we have, that we're trying to mitigate, as well as protecting the neighborhoods. We can do both. We just would have to. It might take a little longer to get to the end with a well thought out law. But I don't think it's one or the other. I think we can discuss it.
I'm not suggesting it's one or the other. What I'm suggesting is what we started with last week. Really talked about moving some numbers.
Right, that's exactly.
And you have to watch what those numbers will do, and it does allow brand new, because it doesn't prevent it, detached accessory dwelling units at 1,000 square feet.
But
I think you have to pay attention to what that could potentially do.
Yeah,
so
because
That's a
it's
point
gonna
of
take more
reference that we
color
need to
and
discuss.
tone in here than just numbers. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
No, I feel like we have to really look into that. I also feel like if it's not already been a plumbed ADU that's already been there, will that septic in that area hold? Will there be reasons for that? If it's 1,000 square feet, is a property now maybe with a star or a senior star credit going to have children in the back, and now the bus is going to stop on that corner, and now there's going to be more kids? I mean, because at the end of the day, as we put in housing, as we create these different, what I would call housing structures, we have to be able to support them, whether it's for our children in the schools or increasing safety with EMS or the police or whatnot. I think there's more than just one way to look at it, right?
Yeah.
Because once you put an ADU on there, I can't tell you I can't tell you who could rent it or who can live in it. You can maybe put some parameters, but you can get a family of 4, and now all of a sudden a property that's being taxed as, senior credit or whatnot, not as we have no more children, has 4 new kids.
Well, also,
Or the
yeah.
plumbing on that property.
There's
or
a
the
lot of
water can't
aspects.
hold
Yeah,
it.
there's a lot of layers to it, and I think most of the layers should be thought about, so you're not getting yourself into something that's difficult to get out of. Think of it this way as well. There's a few subdivisions around town that are not yet complete. I think they're in 40,000 acre minimum zones.
40,000 square feet.
40, yeah.
Yeah.
40,000 acres zone, man. Yorktown's getting a little on the ritzy side.
I have grand ideas.
We have 2 houses in Yorktown.
It's very private.
It's a great place to live. No traffic.
You can walk.
Right. But you can imagine
The
that.
two neighbors get along.
You can see a developer taking a subdivision that under that zone could get, say, 10 houses, and now he can really get 20 units.
No.
I don't know if that's something that, we're
I think it needs to be well thought out. No,
that's what I'm suggesting, and I think that's how it started last week, is that you got to watch where you're going with it, because you could have unintended consequences.
no, I think
But,
you have great
hold on.
suggestions.
To your point, in the current law, it says that, in effect, you can't build a new house and make it into, one with an ADU at the same time. That you can't get a special permit for a period of 2 years after the issuance of a certificate of occupancy.
And that's there for that reason.
And it's there for that reason. So I think if you want to promote ADUs, make them more available, to Sergio's point, because they fill a critical need, not just for the need for new housing, but also to help people, especially seniors, but not necessarily every senior, who wants to downsize and doesn't need 3 or 4 bedrooms and is very content for 1 bedroom. And that's the shift from which part of the house the senior can live in. And I know, speaking as one person, I'm very content in my smaller unit, and I certainly didn't need my bigger house. So all you have to do is, 1, make it clear that it has to be an existing accessory dwelling as of the date of this law. That's a very simple change. And if you're concerned about the increase in size of the ADU to 1,000 square feet, we can talk about 900 or 800, because I think you gave some good, interesting numbers about what some existing market rate housing sizes are going for. So maybe that 1,000 can be slightly lower.
Yeah, Susan, based on what you're saying, and I'm going to use one of your lines, Pat, we're all saying the same thing. I think the intention is really good, and we need to just tighten the belt, because sometimes our good intentions can lead to bad. I've worked pantries where instead of giving it to the people that I want to give to, the people roll up, and I'm not going to question that they don't need it, but they're driving Escalades, right? And I'm giving them boxes of free food, and I really want to go knock on doors and be like, I know you guys need the food more than, or can I leave it here because you work 5 jobs and whatnot. So I think when we start to create stuff like this, we need to understand that not everyone who thinks that they have a good intent does good by the property, by their owners. Like, you might put somebody in there who can afford it when it's really to expand diversity in housing. Or someone who does have a mother or father that they want to keep close and can't afford to go live in Jefferson Village and whatnot, and they want to keep them close, but they're not going to change the demographic. They just want to keep their mom close so they don't have to go back and forth, and they can sell their mom's house to somebody else. I think that I think what's important is that we keep getting curious to what we might not be seeing, but not lose the intent of what the committee is bringing forth.
So going back to what Ken
yeah.
asked last week was basically, let's not talk about detached ADUs and go with his recommendations, which I think.
Please, Ken, you missed when I spoke earlier. I think you came in afterwards, where your opinion is important.
Well, I think what John has pointed out is important, and actually was not the intent of the Housing Board when we made some modifications to B1, which is a section about detached accessory units. It was our intent to say, if you want to convert a garage to an apartment, you can do it. You don't have to maintain the use and then build up a second story. If you want to, we wanted to give a little more flexibility there, but it was not our intent to say, you can build an entirely new structure on the property. I think that, but by eliminating all those other language that you used, that was referring to an existing accessory unit, we inadvertently left that door open, as John has pointed out. So I think that door could be closed very simply, where it says, such units shall be permitted in detached accessory buildings in existing detached accessory.
Yeah.
Just adding the one word
Agreed.
there, as Susan has pointed out. I have a lot of thoughts on, but I don't know that this is the time for that, on Mike Grace's comments that he had submitted to you. I agreed with some and disagreed with some. If you're interested, I'll share those, but this is the main point in regard to what's been said right now. In terms of the numbers of accessory dwelling units, Sarah did some research on this, and I don't have the numbers in my head, but if I'm remembering correctly, it was well under, in looking at the Zoning Board of Appeals agendas for the last 3 years, because it's a 3-year permit, right? So over a 3-year period, you should see all the existing units renewing. And she was seeing less than a dozen a year, I think well less than a dozen a year on the agenda. So that would mean 36 units in the entire town. Now, 20 years ago, there were 177. So there's a little bit of a disconnect there.
Yeah, did they stop renewing?
So, well, that's the disconnect. What is it? Are there so many fewer now? I mean, times change, people change, people's needs change.
Or they stopped renewing.
Or are there a lot more units that are not legal now? And we had a lot of discussion about the fact that I think, correct me if I'm wrong, the town's approach to this is very passive. If you come in with a renewal, we process it. If you don't come back when your permit expires, it's no questions asked. So on our board, we discussed, shouldn't there be a process where the town sends? I mean, you're missing out on getting the renewal fee.
Mm-hmm.
You're missing out on the whole roles that the zoning board and building department
be like an
play
alert
in
letter saying, "You're
ensuring
expiring,
that the
come on."
accessory apartment, meets the standards. So that was one of the thoughts we had. We didn't think it necessarily needed to be built into the law, just into town practice on enforcement. A simple using some kind of database probably that exists already, and probably building department. I don't know. I don't know the internal workings to say we're going to generate renewal notices well in advance of the 3-year expiration date on existing permits and try to get
Well, I hear that
people in.
because I've only been here 4 years, and the amount of computer updates, I mean, Maura, you've seen it too, that we've had in the last 4 years, and then if there's any personnel that gets turned over, that might have been one person's job, like as a task, and it wasn't in our automatic system. But that's a great thing to look into, because it could be that, or they didn't renew it because they didn't release it, and they're using it now as like a playroom or extra space or whatever it is.
The accessory apartment dwelling unit law has always walked a fine line in terms of its intent has always been to preserve the single-family character of Yorktown's single-family zones, and I think that's important, and that's probably where most of the concern comes in when you're allowing new construction of a second entirely separate dwelling on an existing lot. I'm not saying right now that I'm totally against that, but it does sort of stretch those limits and blur those areas between single-family zone and a two-family zone, which we don't have.
I just want to add,
I just want to say, when I moved up here, we were looking for mother-daughters, and there were like maybe a handful that were even zoned as a mother-daughter, where like in Thornwood and whatnot, there were tons of mother-daughters where they had like full apartments downstairs and split levels, and there were not many, if any, in here. So I hear what you're saying about the character of the neighborhood.
So John,
just prior to, I'm sorry, go ahead.
John, I'll make it quick. John, real quick, what your concerns are about the 1,000 square feet, but let's just say there's 1,000 square feet over a 3-car garage. You know, the odds of it happening are very small, I get it, but let's just say it happens. You know, are those concerns, are they, I know they're not the same as a new detached building,
Right, yeah.
that they could organize and make it a 2-story, 1,000 square feet.
Right.
You know, I can't see the 1,000, going back to your suggestions, Ken, about expanding it to 1,000. I don't know where that 1,000 square feet would come from on the existing buildings.
Well, if
you
it's
talking
within the existing building,
Yeah.
it's conceivable you get a basement apartment that can be 1,000 square feet.
Yeah.
That I can see.
But that's not going to change the structure.
That
of
will
the-
not
you know,
change the
so
structure.
I-
The only issue you have then is the number of people that are in there.
yeah,
That's
of
it.
course, and traffic and cars
Right.
and Dave's,
Yeah.
concerns.
Now, I want to talk about whether or not it's in, if you have a 1,000 square foot detached accessory garage, it's pretty big.
That's huge.
It's huge. I don't know that we should be doing that either at 1,000 square feet. If you are having a unit that rivals the usefulness of the main building, I don't know that it's any longer accessory.
And if you
If
allow
you're
stuff
doing
on
it-
the first floor, right, then it would be conceivable that a detached garage, you would be able to develop the garage portion.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
There's your 1,000 square feet.
Yeah, well, yeah, what I'm saying is when you have a detached structure that is 1,000 square feet, it's hard to undo that, and it's hard to keep that within the character of at least that development, the individual parcel development, and the neighborhood as well. And I will send you the Croton stuff so you can see it. That the 800, this is an 800 square foot one, that purpose built, of course, it's a little bit different.
John, with that what you're talking about, was that existing?
No, it was a new.
It's a brand new. Okay.
But you can tell from its design, its siding, etc. You would never undo it.
Yeah.
Whereas if you convert a garage, let's say a 2-car garage, and I'm not saying it's 1,000, with 2 bedrooms in it, let's say, even if it has an upstairs with another bedroom, 2 bedrooms, it's 800 square feet. Someone that buys that later has no interest whatsoever in having an accessory apartment, can convert that back to a garage. It's there for them to do it.
Yeah.
Whereas that unit designed purposefully as a 2 or 3 bedroom unit, 800 square feet with a enclosed screened-in porch, it's not going to be used for anything. It's not going to be used for storage. It's not, it's maybe an office,
house.
but it's going to be a house. And
An office,
that's
yeah,
kind of the the major concern.
I just want to add something that I learned. Thank you to Jay Kopstein told me just before the meeting started. The housing board grappled with this, how many ADUs we have. And they were, as Ken said, the numbers weren't seem to be adding up based on the permits. Jay said that based on he looked at, I think he said the assessment roll. He said could identify ADUs, and he said there's a number of 274. So I just want to add that to the record. That's the number, and I don't know how accurate that is, but we're dealing with.
I remember in the 170s. I don't know what it is today.
Yeah.
Sarah just mentioned to me that she looked at the assessment rolls and saw in the 170s. So, but that's the number, somewhere between 170 and 270.
Yeah, and the other additional thing is there are probably many illegal ones, and by having the amnesty program encouraging these people to get legal, they go through the review of the building department, and we just make sure we have a safe, proper one that doesn't impact the neighborhood. So there's a bonus to that.
In the 2024 assessor's roll, there are, I believe it was 179 units that are in the class 215, which is a single-family home with an accessory apartment. And as Ken mentioned, when I went back and looked at every action taken by the zoning board, and it was typically less than 10 per year. So you've got a big disconnect between 179 units and 30 that are going through the right process. And when you go through the right process, and that's why we also advocated for an amnesty period, we want to get those units back into the program so that they're being inspected, so that they're paying their permit fees to the town, and so that the neighbors have a forum in which to tell the zoning board what
If it's
impact
working or not
this unit is having on their neighborhood, either positive or negative.
Sure, if it was negative, we would have heard about it, maybe.
No.
Well, but this is
zoning board might not have.
the zoning board looks for this input, right, when they're considering the renewal.
Sure.
And right, they want to hear from the neighbors. Is there a parking issue going on here? Is there a nuisance issue going on here? So that's why we want to get them into the program, have the experts, evaluating, have the town inspecting. You talked about safety, Luciana, right?
Yeah,
That's
of
what we're
course.
concerned about. But if it's in the shadows,
You can't
enforce that, and
I
that's
think-
really what we
I
want
think
to address.
pre-COVID, we had an instance where the ADU was creating a havoc in a neighborhood, and it was overpopulated, and people were using it for schools that weren't there, and there was a whole bunch of different things there. So I already made some notes to talk to our building inspector and Gary and try to come up with a system. So
And our recommendation is that once we have a good list, right, beyond maybe the 179 that are currently in the tax roll, that we do put a regular notification process in place, right? So we keep them in the system.
John, with the additional of the word new under that B1 that B1 line, if we just add in about the detached and we add the word new in, we already voted last week to refer out the law. So I think we can continue to do that. And then when we get it back and before we schedule a public hearing, we can always add in that word and any other feedback that we get.
You mean existing?
The existing, yeah. We just add that one word new.
I think we could add it in and still put it out for referral. I don't think that, and this is part of why I wanted to bring it back. If there's a major change, then it has to go through the whole system. If it's a 1-word, 2-word clarification, I don't think we're going to need to wait until April. We could probably refer out, agree to have it just like we did as soon as Adam updates and refer it out.
Well,
if we're talking about 1
Send
word,
it out the
but-
way it is, except that 1 word, and then
No.
we're always able to change it.
Yeah, well, no, I would put the 1 word in it because we
Yeah,
were
yeah,
still
yeah,
waiting.
Well, that one word really changes.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, so you
What
should
did I
put
say?
it.
So
I
are
thought I
you,
said that.
you saying, Ed, that we have to have a new law drafted and a new referral, not the
No,
one that we referred
I
out
think
last
we could
week?
use the same referral, but Adam still has to give the law to refer. And do you think it's a significant enough change that I would need a new vote on that? And we could do that. We could rescind the prior referral and put it out to, and vote today to put it out pending that one word change.
In much the same way.
If you're okay with that, Susan, because
Yeah, because I think, I don't think the clerk's office has actually physically done the referral yet, if
No,
I'm not
they have
mistaken.
not.
No, they
So so if you want to just do a new referral, rescind the old referral, have Adam add the word new
Existing.
to that, make that one change, and then we vote, so we vote tonight to refer that out, so we get this moving.
Oh, well, I do want to ask John a question before we can. No, well, John, I just want to make sure. Do you think this significantly covers enough of the vision that you were seeing with this? Because, you know, knowing your planning, you know, there's still some other things flying loose there, and I know we can always take a second bite at the apple to narrow it down.
Yeah, I think that's the major point. I still think the 1,000 is more than is necessarily needed, but I wouldn't want to hamper, you know, the downstairs with that additional space and, you know, to have it. Again, I think accessory apartments are for
Accessories.
your mom or your kid that's just starting out, you know, that kind of thing.
No, of course.
So I think it should be
Yeah,
limited to that.
and isn't the 1,000 a maximum? The zoning board can always say, if somebody comes in and wants 1,000, they can say, no, we looked at the plan and only 800, or only 900. Just the way now, from what I've been told, when the law says, I think it's whatever the limit is now, and people ask for more, the zoning board has given more.
Right, so take your pick. My preference is to have the limit right now at 800, and if you need the 1,000, you can get the variance and request the variance at the time that you're doing it. Whereas if you allow by right the 1,000 as a maximum, you have a better stance to
Get it, whether
request that, you know, and be successful when it's maybe not necessary. That's all I'm saying.
So I
So-
think that, yeah, Ken, you could come up, and I think that Patrick feels that the 1,000 was a little excessive.
I do.
And-
You know,
and-
but that's what I was going to ask you. But there's a big difference in the 1,000 with new detached.
We're not doing it.
Susan, let me talk, please. Okay? I think the 1,000 on new detached is excessive. I think that the 1,000 in the existing frame of a house, I think is, I was going to ask you, like, how many of the units really fall under that, the 1,000 within the frame? You know,
No
how'd you
idea.
come?
We don't even know how many there are.
I know that, but how'd you guys come from 800 to 1,000? You know, you did all the research, and you know, and you guys do a phenomenal, great job. You know?
So what stimulated our thinking on that was that we talked to Tiffany Zazula from Pace Land Use Law Center, who's working with Habitat for Humanity and Housing Action Council on this grant. She mentioned that they turned down some applicants from Yorktown because they were looking for more like 1,000 square feet in their home, and so Habitat was not going to spend money on architecturals and everything for something that's not allowed in the law when the law says 800.
Now, is that
So that's where the 1,000 number first came from. Then when we met with the Zoning Board of Appeals, when they looked at the 1,000 number, and keep in mind, I'm not representing their opinions here because we had an informal discussion with them. And when you send out a referral, I'm sure you'll find out their real opinions. But they mentioned that they have gotten requests, you know, for that, and that they have approved expanding to that. So that's where our thinking came from. It wasn't from an exhaustive look at every ordinance in Westchester County and what numbers they have in their law. Second, I think it might be appropriate to have different maximum size for an existing, an accessory dwelling apartment in an existing primary dwelling versus an accessory dwelling unit in a detached accessory building. So it might be appropriate to have a smaller size for the detached built into the law.
Are you getting a little pushback because, let's just say, the basements, now the houses are built a little bit bigger? You know, I grew up in a 1,500 square foot house with 6 of us, but now everybody has 3,000 square foot homes. So the basement can be, 12, and they're not going to put 800 feet and have 600 feet of empty space. Is that what you're sort of finding out of that?
I think one of the examples that the zoning gave us is that they've had in the layout when they're giving a floor of a unit that people have had to say, well, we're going to close off this room and this floor that we want to be the accessory dwelling unit, so that it's not, how do you guarantee that that door stays closed, but that in order to get it down to the 800 feet. So I'd like to see the flexibility there, but I understand the second dwelling unit on a property that's detached and the concerns about that. Now, back to the language of putting that one word existing in, I had, after a very quick read of Mike Grace's comments, I had sent an email to Ed just minutes before the work session where we first discussed this. And I had suggested revising the language on that line to start with, such units are permitted in single-family homes in accordance with the requirements herein below in this section 338. Such units shall also be permitted in detached accessory buildings. So I would add that first sentence doesn't exist in the current law, which creates some confusion as to whether the current law is really intended to cover existing buildings. And Mike's comment started out with the law is only for detached buildings. And once he said that, I said, wait a minute, that can't be the case. So I thought adding that sentence in to clarify, and then in the second sentence putting in the word existing. So that would be my suggestion of what we revise, and I can add that to the red line and send it in to you, Ed, and to the town attorney, if you'd like.
So they're both clarification.
Yeah.
So I'm fine, and that would be great. Or Rudy could pass that on to Adam, and we could get that taken care of. So I'm glad we went through this process, because I think there's a little more comfort, and rather than waiting for everything to come around and then redo it.
I just have one more for you, Ken. What's your feelings on going to the zoning board, ZBA, for a variance to go from 800 to 1,000? Is that too much?
What if it was written into the law that that's an option? So the problem was that when they go for this grant to redo it, they were looking at 800 as a hard number. If I had like 950 or 1,000, they're going to just discount it right out.
As a homeowner, in order to go to the ZBA for a variance, I'm going to have to hire architects. I'm going to have to get drawings done. I'm going to have to invest some money. Will I want to invest that money? Forget about the grant. Just as an individual homeowner, in something that's very questionable because it's not really allowed under the law.
And John, what do you feel about the separation for different standard for inside the house, since you're working within that footprint?
I think that's a reasonable way to look at it.
So
'Cause I think that it's, the two are very different from one another. I really do.
So the ADU inside of an existing home structure at 1,000, and then in an auxiliary structure being 800. Okay, Rudy, you got that?
Yes.
Great, thank you. All right, so, Rudy, do you think that it's significant enough to need to redo, or we could just send out with those comments? I know you're not but you actually do zoning, don't you?
I do, yes.
Yeah, so maybe we have the right guy here today.
As the statute is already drafted, it says existing in 3 or 4 other places that as I'm reading it. So I feel that adding the word existing to B1, maybe in a couple other places, is really just...
Can you pull the mic over to yourself? Thanks, Rudy.
It's on.
I feel adding the word existing to a few places is just further clarification of what it already says in the statute. So I don't think it's really a substantial change. I think it's just clarification.
And since we're at 800, with a suggestion of a thousand, clarifying that to be that it's 1,000 for the house structure, not for the auxiliary structure, is still falls within the limits of that 1,000 that we have in there.
Yeah, I would say so. I believe that's the case.
Okay. I just want to make sure that we cover our bases here. All right, so,
Do you want me to add that in the draft I send, because it goes right in that section B1? I can add
that would be great,
or-
since you have it.
Yeah.
I know Adam was under the weather today, so maybe you'll have a nice present in the morning. And we have the Belfour document ready
And
to
did you
go.
run track or something when you were in high school? You were in track and field, or what was it? Because you're quick, man. That was quick. You're like, oh.
So
I saw a flash.
So
A
we,
green
we,
flash.
we already have the resolution to push it out. You need an EAF. All right. Who's getting me my EAF? John? Probably. Okay. All right.
All
so
right.
Yeah, I can do that for you tomorrow. I know I owe you one or two others. So.
All right. So if we get that EAF, which we're waiting for, the changes, and we already voted to send it out with those changes. Everyone's comfortable with it?
Yeah, do we need
Yep.
a new vote, a new resolution
What?
more?
No, so we'll need the new draft and the EAF.
Right.
And the old resolution from last week is good?
It's gonna still stand, correct?
Okay, good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I believe
so.
that's what the attorney.
Yeah,
I
all
believe
right.
that's what
According
the
to
attorney
Rudy.
clarified.
Yeah.
And if we can get it out this week so it hits all the board.
As soon as I get my stuff.
John, if you can get the EAF.
Susan, I just asked him to
You know,
get it. He
I like
knows.
to get, so that we can get this referred out, because then we have to get it back and schedule a public hearing.
I understand, Susan. That's
And
why I
we're-
asked him to get it out. Thank you.
You realize that there's
I realize I'm
10
fairly
possible
I'm
grants
fairly
left in that
I'm
month.
fairly competent in my
Okay.
job, and that's why I wanted to push this now.
like to get it done.
Okay. I appreciate that, and I want it done too, and especially, and I stated to them that this is why we want to make sure our residents can take advantage of that grant money.
That's the goal.
It's a very important thing, and any help we could give to the residents through however we can is what we're here for.
Thank you.
All right, so we're good with that. Good discussion, John. Thank you, and thank you for bringing it up and sort of hammering it to make sure that we didn't. All right, so we're going to go to courtesy of the floor. Please remember, 3-minute limit. Introduce yourself. You do not need to. You do not need to wait for courtesy of the floor to make comments to the town board, and I guess that's about it.
Laura, 3 minutes.
She's doing it. She's setting it up.
Hi, my name is my name is Neil Gross. I live in Mohegan Lake, and I wanted to just take a second to thank you and to show my appreciation for your proclamation. It's just not words on a paper for me, and I'll try to explain it to you in a second, keeping within the 3-minute limit. When my father came home from World War II, he was in Belgium, France, Germany. He came home and he explained that day to me when he got home, when the troop ship arrived where the Intrepid is right now, and the parade that he got, and the women and the men coming out to congratulate them, because they were the heroes of the war. He didn't tell me this until he was on his last days, and it stuck with me, because that's not how Neil Gross came home from the Vietnam conflict. When I came home, well, before I came home, I was a young 21-year-old. That's a couple of years ago. I was on a train I was coming back home on leave before going to Vietnam, and they usually give you a 30-day leave, and it was just wonderful thinking about it. And the train came into Grand Central Station, and from Grand Central Station, I got on the MTA up the Hudson Division, okay, and I'm sitting in an aisle seat in the most beautiful starch. I mean, I look so good. Khakis you ever saw in your life, okay? I mean, you can use them as my creases as a razor blade. Anyway, a couple was walking up the aisle, going to their seats, and they looked at me for just a little too long. And the woman who was there actually spit on me. She said, "What are you doing, you Nazi murder baby killer," or something like that. And I didn't say anything at the time. I knew it hurt me, okay? I didn't even get away. I haven't even been in combat yet. And this is the feeling, the emotion. Later on, when I did get home, I went out looking for a job. I didn't want to get an education immediately. I did spend 50 years in education, but initially I wanted to be an advertising executive because I was a pretty good writer. And I'd go for an interview, and on the interview, on the application, it asked if you were a veteran. In the first couple of days or interviews that I went to, okay, where I checked off, of course I was a veteran, nothing came of it. And so later on, I decided whenever I fill out an application, where they ask if I'm a veteran, I'm not going to tell them that 3 minutes? Yeah. Really? Okay. But it's a lot different now. A lot different now, thanks to you. Thanks to America. Thanks to all the people in this audience, okay? Because finally, as Sergio said, I'm finally coming, or Ed said, I'm finally home. I was never home for 30 years, okay, until just about right now. I feel good. Thank you very much.
Welcome home again, Neil.
Thank you for your service, Neil.
And tomorrow is Jay Copsein's birthday.
Jay, like my birthday, I can make this last till after midnight.
Bob Giordano, 1795 Hunter Brook Road.
Hey, Bob.
These are some of the emails and some of the correspondence I've had with you guys over the past month or so related to the market that we're doing on April 26th. So I'll just make a brief statement. We're here to ask for your support with this effort. The market is April 26th. It's at the Al Capolini Cultural Center from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. I've already heard from a number of people, Ed is included. When we scheduled this, we didn't know that the event was going on. I spoke to Carol Voicey at the chamber, the Hudson Valley Chamber, and she's the one who told me. I was calling her to ask her to help get the word out. And she said, well, Bob, do you know that that's when our event is? And I heard from a few other people, and my response was that the town is big enough to have two events going on at the same time. Their event has the car show, food, and activities for kids. We don't have any of those. We're looking at this as a marketplace for artists, for crafters, for small businesses, and for non-for-profits. Now, you know what's going on a national scale, and we're getting a lot of interest from non-for-profits who are anticipating, if they haven't already, lost grant money, okay? And there's a lot of them. So we expect that people we've already got a few troops, Girl Scout, Boy Scout troops. We've got the Circolo Da Vinci, which is an organization that I'm part of that has a need to raise money for their scholarship fund. So it's going to be a good opportunity to raise money for nonprofits and community service organizations. So in your packet, you have something that I signed, and I ask that you find a deserving resident or non-for-profit or community service organization and offer them a free table at the event. We've changed something that's on the press release where we were initially thinking we would charge $2 for the public to come in, and after comments, we're going to waive. There's going to be no charge for the public to come to the event because we want as many people there as possible.
To touch it, yeah.
So we could use some help to juice up the number. We have about 10 tables now. There's 2 spaces available, 8x8 space with a 6-foot table and 2 chairs, and an 8x12 space with 2 tables and 2 chairs. And people can bring additional tables if they care to.
Great.
So
Thank you, Bob. We'll get this out. Just revise the press release for me. get me a revised press release.
Okay, I will.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
Good evening, Jay Kopstein. All right, first, NYSEG was here. They did a great job. Hopefully, they listened and took some information back. Thank you, and thank Assemblyman Slater. Second, years ago, Yorktown had a big sign out, businesses not welcome. That's been changed. We have to be cautious. We need the businesses, but Yorktown shouldn't be for sale. We have to watch what we're doing. Third, the clerk's office has been very good, at least to me, on FOIL requests. And the town clerk, Ms. Quast, has said they plan on putting a lot of things online going forward. I think that's good. And finally, on ADUs, 2 years ago, I got the number from the buildings department at 275. Right now, the ADUs do not pay their fair share of taxes/fees. In this new law, they should be required to pay their fair share of taxes/fees like every other condo-type apartment in the town. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jay.
Good evening, Larry Killian, Yorktown Heights. Thanks, Neil, for your service. It was suggested that I was not looking at the big picture when last I spoke about 485B. So I have two big picture questions. Is the value of retail space in Yorktown and across the country declining? Hint, online shopping was 6.5% in 2014, 10.5% in 19, 16.2% last year. Question two, considering all the new retail space we've recently added, is our tax revenue from retail increasing? Hint, the 11-year hit for the JV Mall tax cert is $1.9 million. On the other hand, we haven't gotten a dime increased revenue from Uncle G's. The answers to these two questions are key to understanding why we needed to raise taxes by more than 6% this year. Frequently, you mention Uncle G's in support of 485B, but Oster did not get a tax break for Uncle G's, so it's a great example of why a tax break is not needed. They spent a lot of money in that building because it was a retail gold mine for Uncle G's and more traffic for Oster's Mall, all without a tax break. Now back to BJ's Gas. Ed, you mentioned more than 200 jobs at BJ's alone, and Patrick, you said the gas station was not in the original plan. But the rezoning for the gas station was in place by 2014, and the jobs were all at BJ's many years before the tax break for BJ's Gas was even considered. There are 175 examples of how profitable the gas station would be. No one has offered anything to refute that financial analysis. So for BJ's Gas, there is overwhelming evidence that the first 485B tax break was not needed. Sergio, you said my analysis is Monday morning quarterbacking. That's exactly what the law requires. Periodic review of 485B, which you and your colleagues should have done years ago. It's not ancient history. The loss from Chipotle, Walgreens, Dunkin', etc. continues on your watch. We need to revise 485B yesterday.
Thank you, Larry.
Thanks, Larry.
Dan Strauss, 58-year resident. For me, the way the Vietnam veterans were treated when they came home was probably the saddest part of American history. In Alabama, Walker County, Utility Southern Company's Alabama unit recently said it will develop a 150 megawatt system, utility scale battery energy storage on the site of its former coal-fired power plant in Walker County. That's where battery storage units of that size belong. They do not belong in residential neighborhoods or near residential neighborhoods or near commercial areas where there could be serious consequences. I will say the same for ground-mounted battery storage systems. They do not belong in residential neighborhoods, cut and dry. You've made comments about how ADUs would affect neighborhoods, how they look. Why didn't you talk about seriously what battery storage and solar would do to the neighborhoods? Just because they are screened? Give me a break. Yorktown Green is filthy most of the time. The gentleman before spoke about 485s. I'm not talking about 485s. Businesses come in. There are many in Yorktown that look after their properties. There are some that don't, and you do nothing continually. Continually do nothing to enforce the laws so that people don't have to walk through garbage when they go shopping. The basketball court in the town of Yorktown is filthy all the time. It's not to Parks and Rec to clean it. It's for the people who use it to clean it, and it should be shut down until they understand that. Just to your point, Mr. Lachman, at London and Quinlan, where they are proposing a four-way stop, I passed there the other day and a man blew the stop sign going on London onto Quinlan. So that takes care of that one. And if you're coming down the hill toward it, all you need is one or two signs at the top saying stop sign down below. That's all you need. If you go down Quaker Church Road towards 20235, that's a much bigger incline.
Thank you, Dan. It's your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
It depends. There's state traffic law.
That's what I'm asking you. What's
Hi, good evening. Michael Hickens, Yorktown Heights.
Hi, Michael.
Hi. Look, the guys, the ADU discussion that we had just a little while ago with John and Ken and others who presented was exactly the way town business should be conducted. It was in the open. Expert opinions were expressed and debated. You asked questions. You got answers, which is in contrast to the comments you made about ADUs earlier, Ed, when you were talking about Michael Grace offering suggestions. And you seem to have it both ways. On the one hand, he's an expert whose opinion you rely on, like as with others. And on the other hand, you're saying that anyone who comes before the board is arguing on their own interests. So you're trying to have it both ways. He's an expert, but also everyone who comes before the board wants to have their own interest. The expertise that you're talking about is what we saw earlier today, in the open, in public, not an email from someone that used to work here. And the pushback you're getting is because of the appearance of fishy business, because not everyone really has that type of access. You might say, well, you can always call, you can always email us, but there's a difference between some person emailing you, no matter how respectful you might be of them without knowing them. There's a difference between that and actually knowing the person, and we all know that. right? We're not children. And the appearance is the powerful get what they want, and the rest of us should be happy with what's left over. My main point is that most Yorktown residents don't come before the board and expect the board to work for them. They're busy, they're raising kids, they're going to sports with their kids, they're doing all kind of things. They're not coming before the board. What they expect is for the board to actually work on their behalf, even when they don't come here, and to work on their behalf and not on behalf of people who have special access. So when you say that most people who come before the board have special interest, we all know that. What's not as obvious is that we still believe that those people should not get special consideration and extra influence before the law. Thanks.
Thank you, Michael.
There you go, Michael. I think you got a little confused. We'll deal with it.
Good evening, Town Board. I'm Howard Gould. I've been here 25 years. And I just want to talk about stop signs. I was listening to my friend Dan Strauss talk about it at the end of his speech, but I want to talk about 6N. I got on 6N, which is like right across from the golf course. Not that I crossed over, but I just got on the beginning. Anyway, let me talk quickly. So I got on, I'm driving, and I was going to make a right, you know where Carvel is? And I'm driving 30 miles an hour, maybe 35, which is within the speed limit. I got this car tailgating me all the way to, and as a driver, I know when I'm going to make a turn. Prior to making the turn, I'm going to put my signal on. And I also look to see the driver behind me. Not that I have to, but I just check a little bit before. Anyway, this guy is like bumper to bumper with me. Now, what's going on with the raceway on 6N? We need something like a stop sign with lights or something. And I look, there's no 30 miles an hour on that whole strip. I could be wrong, correct me if I'm wrong, but I notice as I'm making the turn, there is like a 30 mile an hour sign that says 30 miles an hour across the street, like where that catering place used to be. It's dangerous. It's not safe. If someone wanted to cross over there, I would make a recommendation that there should be more stop signs. I don't know, they have the lights flashing, and it's too bad we can't yield more time because I would give more time to my friend Dan Strauss. Anyway, please take in consideration because people turn. People stop in the middle, but people, I would say this guy, after I made the turn and I look where I'm going, and again I looked in the mirror, and I'm not good with judging people how fast they're going, but he was definitely going more than 30 miles an hour, and if I had to guess, it was like 40, 50 after I left. I heard the motor go boom. Thank you very much. Have a good evening. Let's all be safe, and remember, please stop.
You got it.
Thanks, Howard.
Sure.
Thank you, Howard.
How are you?
Hello, good evening. I'm Linda Miller, and I'd like to piggyback on what other people have been saying about attracting new businesses into Yorktown and present perhaps a different aspect of the issue. Recently, we've been enjoying the opening of several new retail businesses in Yorktown, and we see town board members and state legislators and the Chamber of Commerce at these opening ceremonies welcoming these businesses to Yorktown. This is as it should be, celebrating new beginnings and expressing community spirit in Yorktown. However, and I think you probably knew there was going to be a however, in the context of all these shiny new national chain store openings, it's only fair and right that the town board, the Chamber of Commerce, the town's PR firm should celebrate and honor and promote the many small locally owned businesses that have been serving the community for decades. These businesses help give the town its character and sense of community. If they're shuttered, the town would be bereft not only of their goods and services, but also their role in community outreach. Not to slight any of the deserving small businesses, I would like to specifically mention two. That is Taconic Pharmacy and the Fabric Mart. I mention these because national chain store competitors have just moved into the town, competitors for these small local businesses. Taconic Pharmacy has been in Yorktown for 55 years, offering an impressive array of specialized and personalized services. I personally am deeply appreciative of its role in providing testing and vaccinations during COVID. They kept a waiting list for COVID vaccination appointments, and I actually got a phone call from an actual human being when an opening came up for a vaccination. Now we have a new Walgreens with a national organization promoting it. In contrast, where's the official recognition, promotion, and appreciation for a long-standing contributor to the health and well-being of the community? The Fabric Mart has been in business in Yorktown for 73 years. In addition to a wonderful collection of quality fabrics, the Fabric Mart sells and services sewing machines, offers sewing lessons for all ages and sewing skill levels, welcomes special interest groups to meet there, offers programs to scout groups. The owner, Linda Spedell, is very generous with her personalized help and expertise. Linda has helped BOCES classes to source supplies, and she sews badges on the uniforms of the Yorktown Police Department. Michael's is going to be opening soon. Michael's sells fabric and sewing supplies. I assume there's going to be some hoopla involved in the opening of Michael's. But will there be any recognition of the Fabric Mart's contribution to the community of 73 years? My point with these two examples is that while it's great to take advantage of the PR opportunities offered by the opening of new chain stores, it's also smart to support and promote small, independently owned businesses that have been the mainstay of the community, quietly contributing for decades. The town board, the Chamber of Commerce, and Thompson and Bender, the PR firm, need to actively feature these businesses on a continuing basis. It would be short-sighted not to.
Linda, I'm sorry, your 3 minutes are up.
One more sentence. We don't want to be a town of chain stores. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Anthony Pichette.
Hi, Anthony.
Hi. It's so funny coming here. You just learn something new about the community. It's pretty cool. So the first thing I was going to say, just to talk about YCNS, which is a local school here in town, is having a fundraiser on April 4th. So if anybody watching this or any whatever wants to donate anything, like
Toys, desks,
well, or like just like discounts, gift cards, like airplane tickets to Bahamas, anything, just go to ycns.org, and I'm sure there's info on there too. Second thing, I feel like it's like grievances day, but we all love the post office. And this goes along the line of last week when I was talking about people parking on the sidewalks. Please, if anyone is watching this that works there, we love you guys, but please don't park on the sidewalks half the time, because we'd love to have more sidewalks and sidewalks that aren't falling apart. So, there's one more thing. I guess that's it. But the last thing I was going to say is, someone else was talking about traffic and something I talk about quite often. And I know I always get a little sad when Dave's not here. But it would be nice to have you guys are really busy, but just like have some kind of discussion point on ways to improve the traffic, alternate forms of transportation, some way, because, with all the development, with that stuff coming in, there's just going to be more and more cars. I mean, you were talking about last week, I think, like, you're going to have people have car for everyone in their family. We're talking about ADUs. You have 6, 7 cars, you know what I mean? There's got to be another way, or else it's just going to be a whole big parking lot. No one's going to be able to do anything. So it'd be awesome to talk about that at one discussion point. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ant.
Ken.
Good evening again, Ken Belfer, and I changed my hat partly because Sergio asked if I was a runner, so this is a Run Against Hunger.
I knew
hat,
it.
Which is,
I knew it.
Croton on Hudson event every year. Sorry, the Yorktown Turkey Trot doesn't have its own hat.
Well, they got a nice shirt, though.
Well, we might have to
Yes,
get a hat.
I have quite a few of them.
I know you do.
But I'm here wearing a different hat, which is about a year ago. I came to the town board and asked you to pass a resolution in support of some legislation. New York State, in its wisdom, does not allow the use of nutrient inactivants in lakes, which is a major tool used across the country and around the world to bind phosphorus, where excessive phosphorus levels in lakes are causing environmental problems like serious blue-green algae blooms. So we didn't get the legislation all the way through last year, but as of now, it's been introduced in both the House, in both the Assembly and the Senate. In the Senate by Senator Harcum, in the Assembly by Assemblywoman Levenberg, and co-sponsored by Matt Slater and others. And I will be presenting a resolution probably within the next week to the town board to ask you to support the legislation. Thank you.
Thank you,
Yay,
Ken.
no blue algae.
All right, anyone else for courtesy of the floor? Motion to close courtesy of the floor?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'll hit a couple things. Neil, they're not words to me either. It's something that my cousin served in the Marines in Nam. Our speaker was actually World War II, but a Marine for Veterans Day. I've been on the honor flight with 4 Vietnam veterans between my wife and myself, and 1 Korean War veteran, and I'm possibly going this May with 2 more Vietnam veterans. So it was horrible. We have, unfortunately, our history has a lot of black eyes in it through the years. But when people are out there fighting for your freedoms and doing what they need to, it's uncalled for. The gentleman my wife had on her first honor flight, Sam, he's a Vietnam vet, African American, out of Yonkers. And Sam told a very similar story. He actually said how they said, take your uniform off because you don't want to be wearing it. He declined doing that. He was proud to have served his country. Besides the spitting, things being thrown at him, the racial slurs were abundant, along with other things like baby killer and all of these misconceived notions of what our soldiers were doing. So, and I agree 100% wholeheartedly with Dan on that. And, once again, to all our Vietnam vets, welcome home. Let's see. I have Bob for the market. What did Bob? I don't even know what my notes were. Oh, well, Bob Giordano. Bob, we'll get that market out. Get me the revised press release. I had some questions. I don't know if Jimmy answered you, but you answered a couple. Asked you, but you answered a couple today about getting rid of the charge, because I want to know where some of that stuff was going to make sure. But I'll talk to you offline later if you want to, once you get me the press release. No, we can't. Sorry, Bob.
Get me a flyer, Bob.
So Jay and I said, yeah, they were here answering questions, trying to help people to figure out how they could reduce their bills, and they had their HEAP program here. So it was good to see and nice to see them responsive. And I did thank Assemblyman Slater, and I thank him again publicly because it was huge. You know, you're right. We you know, and we're very cautious about Yorktown, but please remember also we don't have a large say in what stores come and what stores go. You know, the fact that people are interested in coming to Yorktown is a wonderful thing. You know, whether it's chain or small, I think recently we've had 2 chain openings, but I think in the since this year, probably 5 or 6 small businesses, which is fantastic. And you know, I'll jump over because ironically, Linda, at one of the openings for which is a small one, the Wipe Your Paws. I was talking with Linda from Fabric Mart, and
she was there.
And I made a note to myself, which I unfortunately didn't follow through. Yorktown has, or New York State has historic businesses, and it's through the Assembly. And I know Matt recognized Reliable Oil a year or 2 ago, and we could have him see if they would qualify for historic business, being 72 years. And then, you know, like I appreciate you using Taconic. I will say that I've had a lot of comments that people are thrilled that there's a pharmacy on that side of town because there wasn't much. But I strictly use Yorktown Pharmacy on this side, which I think may even have a longer running track because Bob Sasier's family owned that back in the 30s. And, you know, I believe in that too, and it's fantastic. The only time sometimes you get a specialty medication that they either have to mail to you or send in through CVS Caremark to the CVS. But other than that, my wife and I see Raj way too often for people of our age.
But just to piggyback that, I also want to say, Linda, thank you for bringing that up because my husband works for Empress. He's a medic in town, and they have change of patches. So some of his shirts are for the volunteer group at the YVAC. Some of his shirts are for when he works in Cortland. Some of his shirts have to have Empress patches, and they have a really hard time finding someone to put the patches, seem to pop back there, exactly on the shirts, or be able to rotate patches or whatnot. And I think it's important that there's so much glitter and glitz. You know, tutto che luccica non è oro. In Italian, they say everything that glitters in gold is not actually gold. And there is this gift of personal touches that people are missing. I'm seeing that even in the construction world where they're missing the mom and pop to call you up, meet your family, and then work a project with you, right? And Taconic has also been on the other side of town because I'm on this side of town. But when I needed medication delivered to me before all this DoorDash, Uber stuff was wild and I had 2 infants at home, they were at my door no matter what. It was just a call in and they would do it for me just like that. So I think it's important that we also understand that, yes, those bigger stores have a lot of these backings, but it's up to us as a community to keep talking about these smaller businesses. And I think it's really important that what you brought up was, yes, we can have both, but we can't forget like who's staying in this town and still nourishing the soil of our community. 73 years is a very long time. 50 years is a very long time.
All right. Thank you. And then, Jay, I will definitely look into the ADU taxing structure. Not that you're listening to me, Jay.
Jay? Birthday boy.
Not that you care. It's your birthday. I'll cut you slack.
You gotta hold them right.
Don't worry about it, Dan.
You gotta hold them those hours.
All right. Larry, so yes, value in retail space is declining as it's a supply and demand issue. As it more fills up, it's more of a demand, and then it goes up. Retail tax increasing. When they do renovations, there is increase, and that's what the 485B covers. So it doesn't really, if there is no increase, if they do something that's minor without increasing their taxes, there's nothing there. So that's a moot point. The Yorktown Green did not come in on a 485B because I believe they chose to do at that time a tax certiorari. So you can't have it both ways because you say the tax certiorari's are tax breaks also, which they're not. It's more of a law that looks at the retail space. So they had a choice of one or the other, and they went that way. When you talk about BJ's Gas, that did increase the taxes from that area. It got us a lot of road work done over there, and they also one of the things you miss, and this is sort of the big picture, they also offer gas at reduced prices. Now, I do not feel bad for the gas station in town that is 34 cents a gallon more. I'll drive over to BJ's. I'm a member, and I use a lot of gasoline in one of my businesses, and I really want to make sure that I'm being as conservative as possible. So I don't feel bad when when they price themselves out on one side, and honestly, they're not pricing themselves out because people are still going there. But there are added benefits that go beyond the reduction on the new taxes that builds back up over a 10-year period. So, besides the employees, besides you add tax money, in this point you added, the gas station only probably, figure they have a staff of 16 to 18 people because it runs day and night, but it's not, there's more to it than just those 18 jobs. It's also what are they offering in the community. Dan, agree with Nam, as I said. Battery storage, our current draft of the law is to discontinue it and not have it anywhere, just so you're aware. And that's going out, or that's out, actually.
Yeah, that should be out.
Did we? Wait, we had the hearing, and that's out for public hearing, I believe.
No, it's just referred out.
Yeah,
No,
it's
it was a referral. I don't.
Oh,
believe-
refer,
We
okay.
haven't set the
Okay,
hearing.
we didn't set the hearing, thank you. So that's referred out already, and we'll have a public hearing where you could voice that, but I don't think any of us are in any zone. I think that was what we put out for referral. So no need to really address that unless you want to before that. I think we're on the same page. The solar, that's a little bit of a different story because it's fairly passive. The problem with the battery storage is more safety. When you consider the ADUs versus battery storage, it's not just the appearance per se. It's also, as John spoke about, what is it doing traffic-wise, the amount of houses. There's actually carbon footprint, which never even got spoken about, but in the ADUs, the caution there is to not change the neighborhoods from a population point of view and take a one-family zone and all of a sudden it's a two-family zone because everyone has an ADU, especially if it's a auxiliary structure. But I think we really addressed that very well today, and that works out. The basketball court, I did ask Jim to put up signs regarding cleaning up after yourself, and we have locked it at times when they have not. But I'll talk to them and see where they stand with that. But yeah, and it's unfortunate that people, because they're the ones using it, and it's there's an old saying of not doing something where you eat, and that's what they're doing. I won't be as vulgar.
And there's 3
on-
garbage cans.
Yeah. So
They're there.
so that's that's that. I'll talk to Dave because we did mention something about the stop ahead signs, but those are dictated by state traffic law, so we have to make sure we can do it. I think it is doable. He was looking into where we could do them there, so we'll definitely get back on that. Michael, wow, a lot to unpack, but let me explain to you. There is a huge difference between my seeking an opinion, which, by the way, I asked Ken, I asked Michael Grace, and I asked John Tegeter. That's not access. That's my access in gaining information from someone who spent, Susan, what, a decade as the town attorney?
He wasn't the official town attorney. He was just, I think, of council.
But for how long?
He was actually town attorney for a very short time, and then I think he was like a special counsel. We had other town attorneys, but he wasn't town attorney.
But the town utilized him for at least a decade as an attorney who wrote a lot of these laws. He was a supervisor for 6 years. He did not come to me. I went to him based on a conversation that I had years ago. It's a huge difference. And to say that we're giving access to people, if I know you're running for office, I would learn that difference, because that is a horrible accusation. to say, and it goes to exactly what I was saying. Everyone has a voice. I don't give a crap if he served. If I want to ask him, if I want to ask Larry a question, I'll ask Larry. I ask everyone questions. And some people I might not know have that expertise, so I don't ask them. But learn the difference, please. Because if you're going to sit at the table, eventually, you should know that. You should also know the difference between a reimbursable grant and a grant that's used up front, and knowing where we are on that, because I saw your letter to the editor. You know, you just need to really understand that if you have resources, you should be reaching out and using them. No, you're not allowed to speak back at this point. Sorry. We could have a conversation offline. And you could talk about appearances. Once again, I was up front. This is what I did. This is why I did it. And if you think my emailing you or anyone else in this room gives them a special access, you have a lot to learn about government. And you have a lot to learn about business, because it's using resources.
And also about you, Ed.
Yeah, well, that's besides the point. I won't personalize anything.
No, but
no, I know.
Your ethics go a lot further than you know.
Well, he doesn't know me as well as you do. So, Howard, stop signs, you know, we know, and especially that one. As for the 6N, I do believe there are some speed limit signs, but we're hoping with some of the projects coming in there that we end up really doing some streetscaping, which will help as well. There are some stop sign issues. Like, once again, there's a designation on the law, and Jay could probably school you very well on it with
Like where we can touch
main roads, tertiary roads, and I think there's another third type of road, which
Primary, secondary,
tertiary.
All right,
There you go.
all right, all right.
Thank you. Primary,
All in
secondary,
different
tertiary.
places.
So that's important. Linda, yeah, and, you know, as we said, you.
I addressed it.
Is Linda still here? She left.
gone.
All right.
You addressed
So
it.
they're
but
all
we
in
addressed
different
it.
places.
All right.
Howard, okay, so it's, yeah, we still have to figure out where we can touch it, where we
And
can't.
Anthony, the school you're talking about is the one on Veterans Road? Yeah, YCNS is on Veterans Road, yes. So people know where it is, and hopefully we can, you know, if anyone is looking, and I'll look it up and maybe see if we could do something from
And I
my
believe it's a
from our city.
non-for-profit, so it's self-funded. So one of the things they will do is they'll do collections, and then all the proceeds will go to the school. And in order to donate a basket, a raffle, or tickets to Hawaii, is what I got from what you were saying. It's just a way for them to then also have a raffle table and draw business so that they can get new chalk, get new books, get new wobble seats, and whatever they need.
But make sure you do come to the town clerk's office to fill out an application for a raffle, if you're listening. So
then maybe
I know-
don't say that
no,
at the town board
no,
meeting.
No,
Oh, we're not even trying to make more than $30,000. That's okay.
They're trying to.
I don't know if we'll make that. Then we'll call you.
All right. Okay, under 30,000, we don't need it, so I think they're good. And then Ken,
I didn't know that.
get me the proclamation. I'm sure or the resolution. I'm sure everyone will be on board as we were last year. And please push Pete, Dana, and Matt, because this is one of the no-brainer laws that should go through, and I believe we're one of only a handful of states that doesn't allow it. Correct? Maybe the only one. Right. New York, leading from behind.
Yeah, seriously.
All right.
So come on.
Anyone else for?
Yeah, I got a couple of comments. Lou, you good?
I'm good.
Okay. So, Dan, I agree with you. I think I've expressed how I feel about ground mount solar in residential neighborhoods, and you know, I don't think it belongs there either. And I think there are other ways we can meet our goal and be responsible with energy and that kind of stuff. Ground mount solar in residential neighborhoods, large scale, not for me. That's just how I feel about it.
Thank you.
Jay, you make an interesting point. I want to look at the tax thing on the ADUs as well. You know, I think the goal of the ADUs is to make something more affordable, and everybody's got to pay their fair share, just like you said. So it's kind of like a rock and a hard place on that one, but it is something that has to be looked at. You know, it has to be something that we delve into. So, yeah, no problem. As far as Linda, I mean, she's not here now, but, you know, I will tell you that, yes, we did a grand opening for Five Below. Yes, we did a grand opening for Walgreens. Yes, we did a grand opening for TJ Maxx. Yes, we've been actively publicizing a small restaurant that's coming back to town called Miraggio's. Yes, we did a grand opening for a small business called Wipe Your Paws. Yes, we continue to promote our restaurants like Peter Pratt's, a small business. Yes, we did do a grand opening for a very small art studio called Art and Soul. Yes, we did a promotion for Yorktown Family Eye Care. Yes, we did a grand opening for a small company called Better Sugaring. Yes, we did a grand opening for a small restaurant called La Valletta that lost their lease and moved back to Yorktown. It was a very popular place, another small business. Yes, we continue to promote the John C. Hart Memorial Library, our kids in the schools, sports, local sports. Yes, we continue to promote White Oak Farm, which is a small business. We did a small business blitz for Small Business Saturday, and we went to Launch Boutique, a small business, the Valley Collective, a small business, Play Connection, a small business.
I think we get the point.
Fun
sir.
Time Amusement. No, I could continue.
No,
I mean,
no.
this is just in the last.
No, but we
when-
need to recognize some of the older places.
Well,
too,
well,
is
we
their
do,
point.
we do, and we spoke to, and when she came to us, all somebody has to do is reach out and say, hey, you know, can you do something for us? And you know, the answer is always yes. So to come and say that we were looking for the glitz and the glamour and that kind of stuff, you know, I don't think is a fair assessment. And I'm just saying that. Michael, I know I've listened to your comments. You're entitled to your opinion. I've read your letter to the editor about me personally. You could continue to you know, wage this negative campaign. I will not. I will stay positive, and I will speak about my accomplishments and what I've contributed to this community. You should try doing the same, because here you are, your first two forays into the political field, and it's all negative. And so just, you're my friend. I've known you. We live right down the block from each other. But, you know, and yeah, I'm not even going to mention that because it doesn't matter. That's just my advice to you. And you can take it. I have no right to give you advice. But, you know, going negative right away, you're entitled to do that. I won't.
Susan, go on.
Yeah, just to clarify on the ADU and the tax, I asked Jay before the meeting started what he was referring to, because he sent us an email earlier today about the additional cost. He was referring specifically to the garbage tax. Single-family homes are charged as one unit. I live in Jefferson Village, a condo. I pay a percentage. Jay said it was 0.4, okay? Obviously, there's a change. If you have an ADU, you have two families living there. We have to look at this. And out of curiosity, I'd have to go look at the assessment roll and see we do have some two-family homes in Yorktown. I don't think that many, but we do. And I'd be curious to see what they're being charged. Are they 1 or 1.5 or 1 point something? But this is a legitimate issue. The assessor's office, when the building department notifies the assessor's office that there is now an ADU in that structure, the assessment roll is changed and there's an increased value, obviously. And I think I think Sarah brought it up last week, and certainly it came up at the Habitat Humanity issue. The state has given us enabling legislation that for a 10-year period, the town can reduce that increased value. If the assessment goes up, which would mean the taxes would go up, you can reduce that or eliminate
You
it.
better talk to Larry about that.
So that's it. We give exemptions for lots of things. I think there are
We do.
exemptions for people who put some solar facilities on thing. Obviously, veterans. There are other
So, yeah,
seniors.
We gotta be
Seniors,
careful we don't pick which
Well,
exemptions are better
well,
than the other.
that's a value judgment, but certainly the garbage tax, which is the one that I think that Jay
Sure.
was referring to. In terms of Larry, thank you for clarifying some of the issues about 485B. Anyone who has been watching these town board meetings for many years, the issue keeps coming up. Larry and other residents have 3 minutes to talk, and then people on the board have unlimited time to talk, and you can't go back and forth. Those are the rules of the game. There are a lot of irrelevant issues that are raised. For example, the price of gas. Yes, BJ's is cheaper than going to any other place, but that's not relevant to a 485B issue. One has to do with how much I save by going to BJ's, but that doesn't deal with the tax impact and the loss of taxes from a 485B. The point that Larry has made repeatedly is our law does state that the law requires the town board to look at a review, and this is what hasn't been done and needs to be done. So I have that. So I think we can keep on going back and forth, but we need a better dialogue, not 3 minutes and then 20 minutes or 30 minutes on one side. It's kind of not fair. Dan, in terms of we are waiting on the battery storage law that the supervisor indicated. We had to make a slight revision in the law, so we're waiting to
We'll set a
hearing.
public hearing on April 1st, because that'll put us in the
It
time
would
we
be
need.
ready for April 1st? Okay.
Well, we'll set the public hearing April 1st
For late.
for the 15th.
With
so.
April 15th. That's a
Right.
good day. All right. And the solar hearing, the solar issue is still pending. Last week, the town board discussed different options. Just this afternoon, the town attorney sent red line version, but there are still options that the town board has to discuss. So if we discuss that at the first meeting in April, then we can refer out a law and hopefully get that moving into the process. Michael, I hate to go back to this issue about the ADUs and Michael Grace's memo. I think certainly every resident has an opportunity to promote their own special interest. That's what public hearings are for. I live in this neighborhood and I don't want this, or I'm concerned about whatever, or I object to this provision of a law. That's standard practice. I think the issue and the concern with Michael Grace's memo was, one, how it came about, that I, as a board member, got an email from a supervisor that didn't say that this was Michael Grace's point of view, and Michael Grace was presenting his point of his special interest because he had tried to get a special I think it was a special permit for a caretaker's cottage going back to 2021. He was before the zoning board and it went no place, and he eventually had to withdraw the application. So that memo that the supervisor submitted to the town board as additional input, okay, it was not properly shared, and that was the improper thing. And I think the supervisor has said that he should have, in retrospect, shared it with.
I think I may have just forwarded it, though, off his email, which
You
was
did.
on there.
It was
But-
not sent. No,
Okay.
it came from you. It came.
all right, then
it
I
came from you.
had it. Then it was
and
open
I
on my
think
phone.
that was the issue when I think the.
But Susan, once again, he didn't come before me. I went to him for information that we had spoken about. It had nothing to do with per se what he was looking at in 21. It had nothing to do with the cottage law. But there is a little in some of the proposals. There was a little bit of overlap. Once again, I've sent emails out to lots of people, and I thought that you were on the same email thread with Ken. So I do apologize.
No, this came before, and I don't think we reach out. If you want to reach out to Michael Grace, for
Susan, I am
every
going to
legislation, you
reach
can
out to anyone. I reached out to Ken Jenkins the other day. I reached out to Pete Harcum the other day.
But
and I am not going to say I'm sorry. And it's about things we're talking about, and I brought it up.
All right.
I will not. That is crap. That is politicizing someone who used to have a position, and you know what? It's uncalled for. I don't do it to you. I don't say, oh, Susan sent an email. You send emails out around the board all the time.
Yes.
You do it to me, and then you bomb it on me. You know what? I don't.
what?
You bomb it on me. You just drop it in the middle of a meeting. So that you know what you're entitled to. You could go to whoever you want, whether it's open meetings committee, anyone, any legislature, and anyone. That is your right to use the resources there. Please don't politicize it. That
I'm
is
not
uncalled
politicizing it,
for.
but I think that Michael Grace's concern about the ADU law and why you probably went to him is because you knew that he had tried to get a caretaker's cottage.
I did
back
not
in
know he went for a
2021.
caretaker's
All right.
cottage, to be honest with you.
Have you consulted?
But I don't
That-
really think
that's
that's
the other issue.
relevant to the
All right.
conversation here, and it goes back to what you're saying about having 20 minutes and 30 minutes and talking. You've been talking about Michael Grace and something that happened many years ago, which I don't think is really relevant
On a different law. You know, Serge, let's.
But I don't think it's really
Okay,
hold
Susan,
on,
go
hold
on. No, we don't need to.
Ed
we
raised
don't-
the
I've-
issue in
I've-
his initial
I-
comments.
okay.
It's just been.
I have
more of a
brought my
concern.
point across, Susan, and I'm not going to tell you to stop talking to people. I will not stop talking to people. I will reach out. Ken has been a great resource for me. Sarah's been a great resource for me. I'm not going to stop. And I'm sorry if you think an idea came from me and it didn't, and it came from someone else. I apologize, but I put it right out when we spoke about it at the
Yes,
table.
you did. I was.
Right,
It
so-
made more sense then that it
move on.
came from somebody
Yes.
else.
Okay. Anything else, Susan?
Nope, that's it. Thank you.
All right, I just wanted to clarify, Larry, what I said last week was BJ's originally did not have gas. They got it because one of the requirements for Costco coming in that never showed up where Lowe's is now, they wanted gas. They got the approval for the gas, which opened up the Pandora's box for BJ's getting gas. That's what I said last week. So, and the 485, the 485 we're talking about, it needs to be under review. We get that. But 2 years ago, all these stores were vacant. When I ran 2 years ago, all I heard is, what are you going to do about the vacant stores? What are you going to do about the vacant stores? We're at almost full capacity now. So whether we used it or not, it's their right to apply for it. They applied for it, so now we review it. We're running at almost 100% occupancy in throughout the town.
All right. Yeah, and Patrick, I do think it's relevant that came up before, and if you get something that offers a value to the town or a service that's well needed, there's a value in that, and you could say it does not help the tax, but I'll disagree because if they came in on a 485B, we got 50% the first year of the increased taxes and 100% of the former taxes.
Yeah.
And the next year we got 55%, then we got 60%, then we got 65% in a 10-year cycle. Plus we had a benefit to our residents.
It's a service that they're providing
Right, we
to the
spend a
town.
lot of money for our residents, our parks, benefit for our residents. So we shouldn't have parks because, it's affecting taxes. They're benefits, and people need to realize that with businesses. I don't want to drive to Mount Kisco to go out to eat. I don't want to drive to Danbury to go shopping. So I don't want to drive to the Cortland Town Center for the Home Depot.
I'm not going to respond to the specifics of what you just said, Ed. But I just want to reiterate the point that anyone at this table has the opportunity to say anything they want, and the other side cannot be heard because I could answer each of your points, which I'm not going to do now because this is not the appropriate time.
Nor does it matter.
But that's
We
the
focus on what
point.
matters.
That's the point I was trying to make about why we need a review and we need an equal time for both sides to be heard.
And that's fine. And you also don't need to wait for courtesy of the floor, as we stated before. And I know, Larry, we had probably an hour conversation on Election Day one year up at Walter Panis. And I appreciate that. And I appreciate the opinion. And I didn't run away from the conversation. We had it. We had probably the same give and take we're having today. And I appreciate that. But I know what I feel. And and if you agree with me, you can pull a lever for me. If you don't agree with me, or don't agree with more than half of what I do, don't pull the lever for me. I hear
Okay.
you, but
All right, guys, come on. And let's just stand, let's
Okay.
just stand first.
all right. Thank you all for your patience. We'll get right into our resolutions.
Susan, you good? You're all set?
Yeah, that's enough.
Okay.
All right. Let me find where we start here. All right. From the Albert A. Cappellini Cultural and Community Center, authorize the supervisor to sign a lease renewal for Corporation Children's Center, a.k.a. Bright Beginnings, for space at the Albert A. Cappellini Cultural Center, subject to a permissive referendum. From the Central Garage, authorize the Central Garage to sell obsolete parts and equipment no longer needed by the town at auction through Absolute Auction and Realty Incorporated, and there is quite a list there. Sure, Tom, I'll read them all. After the meeting, I'm gonna come in and read them to you.
He'll serenade you to bed.
Anybody need steel rims?
From the Human Resources, authorize the personnel manager to attend the New York Association of Towns Finance and Personal School Conference. That's April 21st to April 24th up in Saratoga. Just stay away from the track, Tracy. From the John C. Hart Memorial Library, authorize the supervisor to sign an agreement with Marshall Alarm for the installation of an electronic perimeter access control system. And this is from being reimbursed to the town from the Community Resilience Economic Sustainability and Technology Program grant, the CREST grant, ID number 25924, and the amount is $60,000. So that'll cost us a total of $11,900. From the Planning Department, authorize Weston and Sampson PELSLAPC to perform a wetland delineation verification for the proposed Poggiarelli daycare. Poggiarelli daycare.
Oh my goodness.
Padre Daycare.
From the town clerk's office, authorize the supervisor to sign a service agreement with Granicus, Inc. to provide webcasting services to the town of Yorktown. From the water department, authorize the water department to sell obsolete vehicles no longer needed by the town at auction through Absolute Auctions and Realty, Inc. And it's a 2008 Ford 350 pickup, 2008 Chevy Uplander, and a 2014 Jeep Cherokee. Can I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, and a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Yorktown, thank you.
night,
Have a
Yorktown.
wonderful evening.